Okay, good evening, everybody. This is going to be a bit character building for a few reasons. So first of all, I was sick. Apologies for not being around last week. I know I have some VODs that I need to upload still. I'll get on those as soon as I can. And then this Saturday, I went and using my computer, minding my own business, as these kinds of stories are are wont to begin. And I get a notification for a Microsoft Windows update. So don't think of anything of it. Hit OK. Next thing I know, my computer hasn't finished resetting. It's totally blank. And to this point, I have not been able to get anything to display on my monitor. Computer won't post. It's just a big old mess. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's a custom PC. So, took the thing apart, played around with the motherboard, did everything I could and everything I could find online, and couldn't get a single thing working. So the way it stands right now, I went to a local store, basically gave the thing to them. They offer, apparently if I basically give them $45 to look at the thing, they have the right incentives to make sure that I know exactly what went wrong with it. The good news is if it is a problem with the motherboard, hello Masimagoma. If it is a problem with the motherboard, that should still be under warranty. But they said they've got a bit of a backlog, so I probably won't hear from them. My reading of what they said would be Tuesday. And if it turns out that the problem is not as severe as I thought it would be, then that's good. I should have a working PC back. I'd be reluctant to say by Wednesday, but maybe, if I can somehow work out the logistics of picking it up from them, then that will mean that I only have one or two casts where I have to use this current setup. In reality, I think at the very least it's going to be this week. And then if there is in fact a hardware problem with my computer, I could be looking at this thing being out for a month. I really don't know. But it was an interesting problem. So I mean, obviously, when it's a hobby, right, you sort of feel like well, I don't want to put too much effort into this. If it's too hard, everybody will understand. If you've got hardware problems, you can't broadcast. I don't like looking at it that way, because obviously, it's easy to fall out of the habit. But on top of that, I did get started by actually streaming on this laptop. Now, obviously, Stellaris is a little more industrial strength than good old Crusader Kings 2. I'm streaming at a higher bit rate, and looks like I'm dropping frames already. We'll see if that keeps up. So I want to see whether or not I can make this work. I'm actually being particularly lazy right now. I've moved my microphone and all of that into my bedroom, so I'm actually streaming from bed, but it is not a particularly comfortable position that I'm in right now. So we'll see whether or not I can bear this for the next little while. One thing I'm not crazy about is that this is on Wi-Fi. I don't really have a wired option for this computer. And it is a laptop. Like, to me, I can still hear the fan through the headphones. Actually, I'm going to turn the master volume all the way up because it's not quite working for me volume-wise. There's one other thing I'll quickly try in my settings. What have we got here? Yep, I know you're a multi-output device. The Mac version of OBS leaves much to be desired sound capture wise, but I think that's partly an Apple thing too. I don't think they're as friendly to mucking around with the internals as the other version of OBS. You know what? Not worth spending too much time on. I'd love to know if you guys can hear the game well enough. I've got a little bit of actually it doesn't look too impressive with audio. Just give me one more second here. I'm going to see if I can do something. I'm going to see if I can do something fancy. This thing's on a little bit of a hair trigger in terms of going to the wrong windows. So I'm trying to juggle my... All right. Looking promising. All right, so I'm gonna guess if I boost this thing. Probably went up quite loud for you, but maybe not so much for me. Well, I think that's as good as I'm gonna get it. Let me know if the audio is still a bit quiet. I've got some gas in the tank to get that up and running, but we are about 7 minutes in. So I think it's time that I give you some gameplay. Now, because my save is on the PC, I'm not gonna be able to continue the save that that we're playing last time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Do I actually have a save as this? That's a private game, so I don't think I want to... Oh, I've got quite a few. I don't remember doing this. So I'll keep this here. So the intention that I sort of had originally was, oh, that's right, I wanted to try a life-seeded planet. I have a feeling this save is actually going to go very crazy in a little bit. What I wanted to try and do was go back to a format that I used to do before I got the PC. And in this case, I'm going to try and do what I'll consider to be a slightly more new player friendly approach to Stellaris. What this means is, if you want, you can actually ask some questions in chat. So I've internalized a bit of the game for myself, which is good in some senses, but it's also a little difficult when you're trying to convey some ideas to a new audience. It's hard to kind of play a game as if you're brand new to it again. So if you guys do have any questions, or you are curious about particular aspects of the patch, I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I would consider myself equipped enough to help you find your feet. And so especially if you've been sitting on this in your library, I know it has been in a Humble Bundle before, it's not a bad time to get in. And it's a new patch, so in some cases, everybody's kind of starting off at the same level. Now, I love creating new species, and it's, I'd really love to go through a new Empire screen, but I know that's going to take up about an hour if any of the previous... I'm very glad to hear that, Masimagoma. So what I usually recommend, if you're interested in starting this game, if you're interested in just learning, you want to remove as many degrees of freedom as you can. You basically, if you can, you want to break down your problems to their smallest components so that you can learn and you can sort of take a look through how to how to solve them or work with them. Now, the game has a tutorial and such. There are a few opportunities in terms of being able to, I don't know, just being able to kind of learn how the game works at a higher level. But I think one of the nice things, as much as I enjoy making new species, and I think once you're comfortable with the basic mechanics of the game, like once you know what minerals do as opposed to food, and why energy may or may not be important at a particular moment, I really do encourage you to create a new species, because to me that is some of the most fun that I have with the game. So there's a couple things that I want to learn. Number one, I haven't played a lot of dictatorships. So that'll be an opportunity for me to learn. The other challenge, and this is unfortunately it's sort of it's a rival goal that I have. I haven't really played anything but driven simulators, so it would also be kind of interesting to play a rogue servitor species. Oh, incidentally, for those of you not familiar with the game, or not familiar with me covering the game, we will be playing with all the DLC enabled, including the humanoid species pack. So I'll take a look at either. There should only be like one rogue servitor, and then we'll see what our dictatorship options are as well. But the reason I recommend that you start with a built-in species is basically it's so that you know that with the things that you have here, Paradox has made these, and you know that it is not built. It's built to be able to play and do well in the game. So like you're not going to have a situation where oh, okay, you had a lot of fun with your rogue defense system. That's good to hear. Like you know that there's going to be sensible traits combined rather than just sort of random things thrown together. So as far as dictatorships, we've got the Commonwealth of Man. We've got the Vur Technocracy. This is an assimilator, I believe. Yeah. So if I want a rogue servitor, I've got the Earth Custodianship. The custodians were originally designed to function as robotic servants and workers, simplifying the everyday life for their human creators by performing menial tasks. As their creators retreated into the lives of leisure and comfort made possible by increasing levels of automation, the custodians were gradually assigned a higher level of functions in human society. Eventually, all facets of civilization on Earth were run and controlled by the custodians, and their makers retreated to an existence as pampered but passive dependents. As technological developments brought the custodians towards interstellar exploration, their duty remained clear: to protect and serve organics who, without the gentle guidance of logical machines, invariably turn to chaos and destruction. So, lots of leaders. Machine, bad for resettling. Okay. So these seem like a good kind of meat and potatoes kind of a run of thing. Again, I'm not quite sure how rogue servitors work. Starts with 2 organic pops of the biotrophy citizenship and mandatory pampering living as they're caring for. Okay. So this manifests as servitor morale, giving 5 monthly influence and a 10% resource output for every 10% of the population that have biotrophy status, maximum plus 2. Oh, that must be a 0.5. And a 40% resource output at 40% biotrophy pops. Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. I mean, you collect bio pops. Okay, we've got the Xanid Surety. Oh yeah, the Ixodar got transformed into a hive mind. The Marwir caretaker. There's a lot of dictatorships. So I already know Imperial, so I'm going to hold off on doing the Zin. I specifically want to try dictatorship. Okay, the Jetma Dominion. Okay. I'm getting a bit of lag in terms of running the mouse, although I think this is my computer more than anything. Okay, so we've got authoritarian fanatic pacifists, environmentalists, and philosopher kings that are slow breeders, but thrifty and communal. An individual among the Gemta is actually a large colony of fungi that have developed sapience. Some of these colonies, generally those that have lived for thousands of years, stretch across several miles and rarely leave the surface of Jet Prime, their homeworld. Few ships are large enough to transport them. Younger colonies are not only smaller, but also tend to be more dynamic and mobile. They often spearhead exploration and research efforts, the research efforts of the Jetma, as well as any defensive measures that are regrettably undertaken when the Dominion is beset by aggressors. It's a neat character. I'm not 100% sure this is where I want to go, but I'll consider them. Okay, so we've got the Irenic dictatorship. This government is a pacifist form of autocracy, where the state is charged with protecting the citizenry and their own violent tendencies, as well as any external threats. Interesting, so more pacifists. Legends claim that the homeworld of the Malwir was empty and barren when the first of their kind took root in the soil. Over the centuries, their nurturing care transformed the wastelands into a giant paradise that is known as the Garden. Unlike many other species, the Malwir never developed any kind of urbanization. Their small communities are at one with the forests, responsible for the maintenance of the local flora and fauna. The wisest of the Malwir have a chance to be elected the Life Giver, responsible for keeping peace and tranquility. So they're sedentary, slow breeders, conservationists, enduring, and agrarian. I do like the inward perfection. Yeah, actually, I've never really tried an effort to gain unity this way. I think between... Okay, so I think I prefer the Malwir to the Jetma at the moment. The Zanid Shuranti. The history of the Zanid Shuranti is the history of the Ven, carefully bred into sapience over centuries. The Zani used the hardy Ven to subjugate the harsh ecosystems of their native world, and then to design and build vessels that will eventually, inevitably, propel the Zanid Shuranti to galactic dominance. Alright, they've syncretic evolution. So that's actually kind of similar to what I have. The Xenophobes, which is kind of fun. But these guys are very similar to what I'm playing already, so I think I'm going to hold off on that. The Vor are a technocratic dictatorship. So technocracy, environmentalist, fanatic, authoritarian, materialist. I love my materialists. Quick learners, adaptive, and repugnant. The Vor evolved during an extended interglacial period of their home on their home planet, Hyberon, which eventually began its cyclical transformation back to a lifeless globe of ice. The rapidly changing environment forced the Vor to adapt using technology and science. United under the draconian rule of their chief scientific officer, they sacrificed their individual freedoms and enhanced their bodies with rudimentary cybernetics to survive. Having conquered the planet that once threatened to freeze them out of existence, the Vor now set their sights to the stars. So I believe these came with the humanoid pack. This is tempting. And then, of course, there's a Commonwealth of Man, which is very tempting, very militaristic. Also xenophobic, also fanatic militarists, wasteful, nomadic, adaptive. The UN-sponsored Ulysses Initiative oversaw the construction of 6 giant arc ships in low Earth orbit at the end of the 21st century. The ships, carrying 250,000 colonists each, were sent through recently discovered subspace phenomena on the outer edge of the Oort cloud, a small, unstable wormhole. None were heard from again, and the destabilized wormhole vanished. Yet unbeknownst to Earth, one of the arc ships survived the passage and established a flourishing colony on a lush alien moon. The pioneers who tamed this world were determined to realize humanity's manifest destiny, dominion over the galaxy at any cost. Okay, I think I'm going to try the pacifists, racists, because this seems really interesting. So now I'm still going to go for Iron Man. Oh yeah, this is one other important thing that I wanted to say. Obviously I'm a little lethargic in terms of getting started, but I strongly recommend whatever you pick here. So don't pick it, don't pick things that are too if you think it's going to be very complicated to learn, so for instance, I wouldn't recommend the Ixodar just simply because it's a Gestalt consciousness, which means that the tutorial is disabled. So don't take on too much. That's hard to choose. But remember how I said I've never really played as a dictatorship before, and I'd like to learn that. I also haven't tried like Inward Perfection and Agrarian Ideal, but I sort of understand what these concepts are trying to do. So I've also never played a pacifist before, which I think is going to be kind of interesting. So what my main goal here is just to try and learn how dictatorships work. But because I sort of think, well, this will be interesting. I've never really tried this play style before. I roughly understand what they're trying to do with like Inward Perfection, Agrarian Ideal, Agrarian, etc., which means that I can focus on the things that I don't understand. And I'll talk a little bit about, I'll try to delineate what I'm specifically doing as the Mawir versus what I'm doing as a general starting position. So first thing that I would recommend, if you want to learn Stellaris, pick something that interests you. Like if you liked hearing, obviously Zodicide said that he really liked the Earth Custodianship. So if you have, if you have Synthetic Dawn and you don't mind not having access to the tutorial, start with that. It's a great way to learn because the way that you will get hundreds of hours in a game like this is by making decisions that interest you. And then as you kind of get used to playing the same old, I'll turn that off for being able to play. As you get extra time in the game, you can, eventually you'll want to push your horizons out, and that's a really great opportunity to move forward. So I'm just going to do a small galaxy. And another thing that I want to try and do is run an elliptical galaxy. And one of the main reasons for that is, actually, can I get away with tiny? 1 to 3 versus 3 to 6. Let's see if we can maybe make a night out of this. I'm going to try a tiny elliptical because we'll start running into things. So we've randomized the start. There's 1 to 3. We could also make it so that there's just nothing inside the galaxy, but that's not very exciting. No advanced AI. Oh, no fallen empires. I wonder. Okay, potentially 1. Fallen empires do kind of make it interesting. I think I am going to go up to small. Yeah, well, I'll reset to default first of all. And we'll hit small with randomized. Yeah, I'll keep everything else the way that it is. No particular preference for going on the small size. It was more of a decision sort of driven by something I'd kind of like to see if I can get through this rather quickly, because I don't know how long I'm going to be on this laptop. So if I can get something that's a little bite-sized, so much the better. All right, the Mawir caretakers. In the aeons since the first primitive Mawir communities took shape on the dense jungles of the Garden, our civilization has spread and prospered. Unfortunately, our undisciplined minds were still prone to emotional outbursts that could sometimes lead to violence. As weapons became more deadly with each passing technological age, a complex system of government was devised to protect our citizens from harmful elements, including themselves. Now, after the discovery of the hyperlane network, the finest minds of the Mawir caretakers have finished development of the first hyperdrives. The stars themselves are finally within our grasp. So, what Xenophobe will give me is it will make it easier for me to build star bases, which will expand my borders. It'll also cost me less. As a fanatic pacifist, I can only do defensive wars, and I cannot engage in indiscriminate orbital bombardment, but it does mean that my populations will build more, and it also means that I get more core sector systems. So these guys are very good at expanding, and also I want to have as many pops as I can get because it means that they're going to be able to build even more. Inward perfection. So I can't have rivals, can't form defensive pacts, can't form migration treaties, can't guarantee independence, can't join federations, cannot have tributary subjects, cannot infiltrate primitives, but in exchange I gain bonuses to monthly unity, I gain bonuses to population growth speed, and I gain bonuses to citizen population happiness. So really, it seems that because pretty much all of my, more or less all of my means of taking out my my means of taking out my enemies are kind of gone with inward perfection. I think the idea here is that I basically need to colonize, or I need to own, all of those colonizable worlds. I need to rush to them before my rivals. Otherwise, I think I'm not entirely sure how I satisfy the victory conditions otherwise. Okay, under the agrarian ideal, farms also generate 1 unity. That's kind of important because my usual strategy so far has been to sort of switch out farms once they're producing enough. I may no longer want to do that if they generate unity. I have a tropical preference. Agrarian gives me bonus food. Enduring gives me extra lifespan. I use fewer consumer goods in production. But slow breeders, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And the migration speed we already know. So we'll hit begin. All right. So we'll take a quick look at the galaxy. It's pretty small, but then again, I did say small galaxy. I kind of wonder what the tiny would have looked like, to be honest. So a few changes were introduced in this game. I apologize, by the way, for little lags and things like that. That's just going to be a function of the fact that I'm on my laptop. So there's a few things that I want to consider. I want to have a defensible position if I can. Now, of course, one of the reasons I chose elliptical is it does make things a little more difficult in terms of figuring out, how do I defend myself? It's maybe not so obvious where the choke points are. With the new patch, you have to use science ships to explore new areas. So really, I mean, I have lots of choices for places to expand. I've got 1, 2, 3. So in terms of immediate expansion opportunities, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As long as I can sort of get around this area here, I kind of get this all to myself. If I can block this off in particular. What I think I'm going to do, though, is I usually build at least 2 science ships. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get this guy to survey these systems out here. What I'm doing here is shift right-clicking. I think if I do... I think if I click this survey button, I can do the same thing. But in any case, I want to see what my expansion options are. Now, let's say that I want to start with a second. So the first thing, the usual start that you do in this game would be you'd immediately build a second science ship and send it off. There's a problem with that now, and I'm looking for the leader screen. So let's say I want to recruit a new scientist. Oh, interesting. This guy costs half as much. But I can get a maniacal instead, so I will be patient. Oh wow. It's a lot of good guys here. So in any case, until I get 200 energy, that ship is just going to sit there doing nothing. So instead, I'm going to focus on building up some resources I find useful. And in this case, I'm going to start by building the Autothon Monument. The reason for that is that will give me Unity. Unity, it's not so obvious by mousing over. Well, actually, it does say at the bottom here, so it's used to unlock traditions. The big idea behind these, so I get my picks. As I go down sort of one of these paths, you get certain bonuses. So for instance, under prosperity, there are bonuses. Hey, Sungif. There's certain bonuses you get towards reduced costs and such. And when you sort of unlock an entire tree, then you'll get an ascension perk, which is a particularly powerful sort of bonus towards your empire. So I'm starting with one of those just because if I can get as much Unity pumping out as I can, that's better for me. And then what I'll be doing afterwards, as I grow population, we'll get somebody working on this area. We'll get somebody working on this area. We'll try and get as much food as possible so that we can expand out as quickly as we can. In the meantime, another great place to start is... So actually, the logic behind what I did here was I started with my science ship. So I took a look at the galaxy map and said, here's where I want my initial exploration to happen. Then I took a look at my planet and I said, I want to build something that will generate me more Unity. I would like to have as many resources... I would like as much Unity as possible to be generated at any given moment. So I built a building that will... accomplish that, and I'm gonna I'll put a population to work on it as soon as they become available. And that's really all I want to do on this planet, because as you can see, everybody has a job and I'm perfectly happy with where they are. Why would you unlock an entire tree? You don't get a lumberjack, or at the very least it's... Well, I mean, I'm playing tree people, so they may not appreciate the chainsaw. And that's more or less what I want done. The only other thing I might do with my outliner would be my construction ship. So I know I've already used my resources to build an autothon monument, and I know I'm going to be waiting about 10 turns to get the energy or 10 months to get the energy for my new scientist. So in the meantime, I'm going to build some resources that will allow me... basically that'll allow me some extra, I don't know, they'll get me more resources. I'm a little tempted to go for the energy, but in this case I'm going to start with the minerals and then I'll double back and get the energy. So building one of these, and I think we're... Oh yeah, sorry, one last thing. When you play the game, there will be some alerts that come up. I, of course, need to pick some initial research. So in this case, we'll go for a bonus to my physics lab. The way I always like to think about these decisions are, what am I giving up in order to achieve this, particular objective? Hey, Rouge Light Girl, good to see you again. For those of you wondering about the drop in quality, I am currently on my laptop because my PC is broken. So this one, I don't have any specialized science buildings yet. Of course, that'll allow me to research and get to draw from this deck more often. And the other thing about the power plant is this is an upgrade to something that I haven't maxed out my utilization. So it's a little bit easier for me to build new power plants, which will cost me less, and take advantage of the untapped resources than upgrade my existing infrastructure. So out of everything, I prefer the idea of the physics lab. Next up for research. Now, genome mapping is very tempting here because it will give me, that will offset my my penalty of being a slow grower. So genome mapping is a tempting one. Who's hosting us? That's Mr. Deadpool. Thank you very much for that host. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about the cat Rouge Light Girl. I hope that that works for you, or that works out for you. The other argument would be for the biolab, which will basically to use that for the same reason that I would pick a physics lab. But in this case, I like the idea of genome mapping. It's nice to have faster growth at the beginning, and because I'm beginning with a bit of a penalty towards that, this will help offset some of my initial problems. Off-World Trading Company is tempting as well because of the bonus energy, but I don't have as many buildings to build the Off-World Trading Company in, and it'll take me longer. It'll take 84 months as opposed to 54 months. So in this case, I prefer the idea of getting that faster growth speed. Finally, we'll take a look at engineering. And the decision here would be I can either gain powered exoskeletons, which will give me a bonus to army damage, which is not particularly useful to me, or a 5% bonus to minerals. Tempting. And then engineering facility, again, for the same reasons that a physics lab and a biolab would be tempting. Extra bonuses to engineering facilities would be nice. But in this case, minerals are, of course, something that will allow me to build additional additional resources allow me to build all of that extra infrastructure, more of it in a shorter period of time. So in this case, I think I'm going to go for the powered exoskeletons, and then we can double back and do nanomechanics. And again, standardized Corvette patterns. Well, it's all well and good to get a bonus to building the extra Corvettes, but I'm peaceful, and it'll take me 103 months as opposed to the 81 months. The reason why it's so much slower is that the engineering... Rogue Usagi, thank you very much for that host. I have that much less engineering research, so those are my choices. And once you feel that you're comfortable enough to let things go, you can unpause. I'll try not to pause too much while things go. Good evening to you. That's Mr. Deadpool. I appreciate the host. And how are you tonight as well, Rogue Usagi? I appreciate the host there for sure. Again, my PC... Again, we've got some new bodies coming into the channel. My PC is dead. Trying to work on that, so we are on a laptop. I'm all cramped up in bed. It's not as comfortable as you'd think, just because I have to angle everything appropriately for the mic and such. And I'm having a little difficulty hearing the game just because of the strangeness of... Oh, that's good. Tropical and an ocean world, so these are nice and colonizable. The strangeness of doing OBS on Mac, but once upon a time, this is how I used to stream, so it's a reminder to the old days. And again, guys, I am trying to make this particularly new player friendly. It's why I'm being very granular in first little steps in that. I don't think it'll be a very good VOD because obviously I spend a lot of time talking at the beginning and such. But for those of you who are interested, you know, I would like to make it so that if you guys are interested in playing this game, or if you haven't tried it out yet, you know, I like answering stuff like this. So if you have any questions about why I'm doing what I'm doing, or if there's anything that's unclear to you, this is a great time to ask these kinds of questions, because I'm playing with a default, like a base race that you get with the game. And I think this one's probably for the Plantoids DLC, but if you have that DLC, you should be able to play the species that I'm playing. And if you, yeah, I don't know, if you haven't quite been able to find the angle to get into this, I'd love to try and clarify anything that makes the game a little intimidating. The discovery of alien life. The MSS Soaring Leaf has made a startling find on Zif 2. The planet is teeming with alien life. For the first time in history, we have encountered life forms that did not originate on the Garden. This amazing discovery has silenced all who believe that we are alone in the universe, although none of the alien creatures found on Zif 2 are sapient. It is likely only a matter of time before we encounter beings that are. We may not be alone out here, and we gain 60 society research. So the opening of the game, especially with the new patch that came with
discovered.
All right, that's a level 4 anomaly with a level 1 scientist, so we will leave it be for now. Very high chance of failure. The Marware caretakers are abuzz with the news of alien life found by the MSS Soaring Leaf. While hardly intelligent by Marware standards, the fascinating beings defy easy classification and hint at immense complexities and possibilities of the universe. So yeah, it is a bit stately in terms of patch while you're sort of exploring. I mean, this is really one of the core ideas behind Stellaris when it first came out, which was this idea of sort of being a ship exploring in the dark. And so there used to be a strategy that some people would employ in terms of using corvettes to go out and explore space. But they really want to stress this idea of science ships being the one that are going out into the unknown and seeing what's going on. So with that in mind, things are a little bit slower in terms of the opening. Now, I'd love to build an energy resource here. Okay, Zif's been explored. But I'm just going to take a quick second here to see what it'll cost me to make a science ship. 100 minerals. So that'll be ready in... Yeah, that'll be ready before too long. So I think we're going to hold off. We'll get our science ship built first. And in 2 months we will have... Starbase is going to cost me about 100 minerals as well. So I'm thinking an expansion focused start would be a good way to go. Okay, Nifra also has colonizable worlds, which is good news for me. One thing I don't like about this start, of course, is that my construction ship is just sort of sitting on its own, not doing anything.
Construction complete.
All right, so we've got our science ship that's built. I'm just going to take a quick second here to go back to the garden. So notice that because I've got an unused building, the AI's constructing a, well, not constructed, but my next population's being built there. It'll kind of do this stuff automatically for you, but if you ever want to change it around, you can click and drag. So it's just like a city in Civilization in that regard. Now, the MSS Soaring Leaf is my new science ship, so I'm going to do something a little unexpected here, and I'm going to... Well, actually, before we do that, let's see what my options are for scientists. So yeah, we've got the Maniacal guy over here, who gives me a 5% bonus to research speed. He's also the youngest, so we'll recruit him. And for the MSS Soaring Leaf, I'm actually going to put my engineer there. So one, they generate experience faster than their peers, which is nice. So they'll get the most, you get your most experience by actually going out and exploring. And on top of that, we'll get a bit of a kicker. So these guys generate 10% research. We're still a little bit behind in terms of our engineering research. It's 77 months as opposed to 46 months. But the nice bonus, of course, is that we have somebody who's slightly better at researching now, working in each of these categories, and it's regardless of whatever field they're researching in. One other thing I might want to try, I actually think I'm going to make Stock of Blue the engineer. Actually, it doesn't really... Yes, it does. All right. I wasn't thinking through this, but Stock of Khaki is now my physicist, and the Maniacal researcher is Society. The main reason for that is that with my existing infrastructure, I'm generating the most social research. So I'm basically trying to give a bit of a boost to my my lesser categories and spread things out a little bit more evenly. Obviously, this still has a big bonus to it because of the discovery of alien life as well. So in the meantime, we've got 2 science ships now. I've got one sort of exploring the left-hand side of the map, so this one will explore the right. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get them to sort of explore the natural choke points. Main reason for that is as long as I expand out my borders to incorporate these, it's less likely that people are going to take these areas from me and I can explore them at my leisure. So, hello, Melemony. Getting over a cold, sadly. But I believe you were from K5 stream. You've really been getting it, getting the short end of things because my PC is broken. I'm now broadcasting on the oh, that's right, yes, you do prefer Mel. I'm casting from sort of the B setup. Good news is I'm in bed. Bad news is I need to contort myself into interesting ways to make the microphone work out. I'm actually going to do that right now. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, we've already got a tradition. That was fast. And yeah, but we're making do because I don't like the idea of an excuse making too many excuses not to stream. So we were talking about those traditions. We've already got our first one from all that extra unity that we're generating from our farms, and sort of, I mean, Discovery as a research kicker, I've never quite been convinced for Discovery at the very start, with the exception for maybe the science bonus for exploring new systems. Harmony is one if I wanted to double down on generating some more unity, also for faster population growth, so that will also help offset my my slow growth penalty. But if I really want to be growing, I'll do that through expansion. And one particular reason I like this, colony development speed is not that special on its own, but starbase influence cost being reduced, increasing the starbase capacity, capital buildings generating unity, and then starting new colonies with an additional pop. All of these are pretty decent bonuses to get. So we said that the strategy for these guys seems to be about colonizing as much of the universe as possible and as quickly as possible. I'm going to focus on a tradition tree that accomplishes that. And if you obviously, I don't want to go through everything. You know, a new player-friendly stream does not necessarily mean you go through every menu, because of course the game is complex, and one of the important things that you can learn is knowing when to ignore certain bits of information. But if you ever want to learn more about something, just hold over the mouse, and you should be able to get a few of these things. I was actually really interested in the purity tree, because obviously these guys can't get tributaries. You're so used to playing this in Star Trek, it looks like a whole different game. Yeah, still haven't done Star Trek. It's probably the most recommended mod that people bring up. But of course, the big thing is I've never really watched Star Trek. I saw, I think the movie was called First Contact. It had Patrick Stewart was Picard was the captain. I enjoyed it. But I've yet to have the privilege of enjoying a Star Trek episode. So I have a feeling some of the references in the mod would be lost on me at the moment. So the next thing that I want to focus on when I build enough in terms of my minerals is to build a second construction ship, and this is so I can get a little bit of a pattern down of sort of expanding my border with one ship and then building up the infrastructure with the second one. Now I have a little bit of time because of course I also want to find some additional areas to colonize. We've recovered artifacts from an alien civilization on Nifra 3. They must have been active in this region of space approximately 12 million years ago, judging by the age of the artifacts. From what we have been able to piece together, our scientists theorize that these aliens, who called themselves the Vultum Star Assembly, were worm-like annelids, roughly 3 to 4 meters in length, that communicated with each other primarily through vibrations carried along their segmented bodies.
Situation log updated.
Okay. So Nifra is my most attractive colonization option, or not colonization, but expansion option. There are signs of activity of an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. Works for me. The administration on the garden received Science Officer Petals of Olive's report on the alien remnants with some apprehension. The leavings in question are now widely considered to be definitive proof of unknown forces once having been active in the galaxy, though some prominent Mawir thinkers reject this in favor of identifying the traces as freak geological formations or results of curious natural phenomena. Remarkable. So the reason why I find this attractive, one, of course, is a colonizable world, so that would mean that we'd have 3 within our borders immediately. You do need to claim a system before you can colonize it, but it also has mineral resources. So while the energy would not be available to us, the minerals certainly would be.
System surveyed.
So we'll move out here. I'll probably claim this one, and then we will, yeah, next turn I should get that, and then I'll probably focus on building a second construction ship. A small Vultum satellite was found in orbit of Saya 2. It had been set up to continuously repeat a message until its power source drained millions of years ago. We salvaged its transmitter array, but could only recover a small portion of the transmission. The main purpose of this satellite was apparently to preach the dominant Vultum philosophy to neighboring civilizations. Its message speaks of the need to disconnect and to embrace true existence, whatever that means.
Situation log updated.
Alright, so this is an example of a sort of an event for a situation log. So we get a chance to investigate this satellite, but the drawback is it requires a skill 5 scientist. So right now we don't have the technical know-how to be able to do this, but as long as I have access to the system, I'm going to be able to explore it sort of at my leisure. All right, so we will build another starbase, 48 influence, 100 minerals. And now, of course, one of the drawbacks with my my current scouting plan is that I'm not paying attention to potential expansion areas in these systems. But I kind of needed to make a decision. Looks like this is a savanna world, and it's a size 25, so we'll add yet another potentially habitable planet to our borders. And the way I'm going to be handling my expansion options, I particularly wanted to expand out to this planet because it's currently the only source of extra mineral wealth for me.
System surveyed.
Oh, that's right. Savannas are desert territories. Rhizome of Grey's already got their extra level. A little bit of that was from their research, but the majority has just come from exploring systems, and this guy should be following pretty quickly. What do I want to do with them? I think I'm going to get them to sort of double back. Actually, yeah. It's not the most efficient path, but... Oh wow. Just churning out the traditions. So this will be occupied for a little while. I don't think I'm going to colonize immediately, so let's reach for the stars so that we can reduce those starbase costs. And then we'll do colonization fever and new life, and then we'll fill in the gaps. See how the garden's going.
Construction complete.
We've got probably a little over a year. Okay. So here I'm going to start building up my mineral resources. At some point I would like to build that second ship. But again, it'd be nice to sort of get... my view of this is that I'm okay for energy for the next little while. Hey, Johnny Big Time. How are you doing? Are you here to learn Stellaris? Or are you just here to support me like a good fellow you are? I know you know the sad story of the PC.
System surveyed.
Okay. So Saya's... I mean, it's not... I'm more excited about Soyun because of the mineral resources. But I mean... there isn't really such a thing as a non-exploitable system. There's usually going to be something in there that you want, or it will at least cover your costs. So, guys, for those of you who don't know Johnny Big Time, he's probably one of my favorite casters on Twitch. He's even when he's playing something like Fortnite. And see, here's the funny thing about Fortnite for me. While I won't even say it's not my kind of game. It's not the one that I'll normally play. You know, absent someone I know playing it, or it's not my first choice, let's say. Impressive structures litter a small area on the surface of Raman 5A, practically begging for some archaeological work. So we'll research that. Construction ship is idle, so we'll build on the mining area next. What I'll probably do here is I'll expand out to Soyun for my borders, and then I'll build another construction ship. You're here to do whatever you goddamn want. Very nice. Yeah, the thing I really like about Johnny's cast, so like I don't dislike Fortnite, but it's also not a game that I'll sort of pick as a default option, let's say. But one of the things that really gets me with Johnny is, so even if he's playing something like that where there's obviously no shortage of people who want to play Fortnite and will do it on their cast, Johnny really comes about it honestly. Like I really understand why people find that game enjoyable. He's got a great attitude. He's got a great personality. He's got a great wit. So, you know, he's always got something to say in terms of the chat. You feel very welcome when you come into his channel. And one of the things that I really do like the most is that he's really open to new things, to to try out some different kinds of games. So he did a really wonderful XCOM playthrough, which is, I don't even know if it counts as one of my favorite things that he's done, but I definitely had a lot of fun watching him play that game. And again, he's somebody who's got a real gift for entertaining. He's got a genuine personality. He's somebody who's very friendly and easy to get along with. But on top of that, he's one of my highest recommendations as a streamer. And in some ways, he's totally different from me in terms of just the kinds of ways we do our casts. But with that in mind, like I honestly, I can't think of somebody who I have more fun watching on Twitch than Johnny. So let me give you a quick shout out here. I hope my bot works. Yay, it does. If you guys will just forgive me a quick moment. I knew I shouldn't have tabbed out into chat because it makes things... Okay. I need to make sure all my windows are in a proper order, otherwise it's a disaster. Incidentally, Johnny does have a copy of Stellaris, and I'm a little I'm sleepy in my tone. But I don't know if I'm going to convince Johnny that this is the best one to see. Oh, Mel, you made a wonderful choice. But yeah, I am trying to convince Johnny to do Stellaris, because I don't even know if he'll enjoy it. I hope he does, and I think this game is really accessible to people who don't normally play games like this. But it's mostly just because I really want more excuse. I played Vermintide with him. And Johnny's so much fun to play games with that I'd love it if he played more games that I love, because that'll just mean there's more opportunities for me to play games with him. We've detected the presence of a primitive alien civilization on Vul-Ja on the Alkid system. They appear to be in the later stages of the Bronze Age, having mastered early metalworking. Although most of their population is rural, several large city-states have formed. We should consider building an observation post above their world to study them more closely. See, Johnny? That lovely person who just followed you thinks Stellaris is a good game. Effectively capping off previous discoveries of lower forms of life, the report on the primitive aliens and the MSS Soaring Leaf encountered by our fleets has reignited interest in the xenological sciences on the Garden, previously considered a largely theoretical field. Disconcerting. Abandoned amusement park. The instructions on Raman 5A are not as old as we first believed. It seems to be a playground or an amusement park of some sort. Science Officer Petals of Olive notes that many of the contraptions are highly complex creations that we can learn much from, and that, to the builder's alien eyes, this might have been a cutting-edge sensor array or even a gigantic art installation. Regardless, to us Mawir, it looks like a place where you would take your young and let them amuse themselves. Intriguing. Zangief tried to get into Stellaris around release with a friend of yours. You sat around for an hour doing practically nothing and decided to play Baldur's Gate instead. Well, Zangief, I mean, obviously,
Anomaly discovered.
No game is going to be for everyone. There are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. Research it. Habitable World Survey. We now know without a doubt that the thriving biosphere is not something unique to the Garden. Both the scientific community and the public at large are eager to learn more about the various forms of alien life found throughout the galaxy. Efforts to catalog life forms we encounter are already underway, but our xenobiologists have urged us to focus our planetary survey efforts on habitable, life-bearing worlds. Commendable
Situation
initiative.
log updated.
Obviously, no game is going to appeal to everyone. But I can definitely say that one thing that's really appealing to me about Stellaris is that it does reward the time you put into learning it. So if you do stick with it, and the game has changed quite a bit from the release, if you do stick with the game, the rewards that you will get will be a game that you quite easily can spend hundreds of hours in. But of course, the big problem is that if you're not convinced on the value of Stellaris on its own, you're going to have a really hard time believing that hundreds of hours in Stellaris is a good thing. Remnants of a small Voltum Helium-3 mining base have been found at the bottom of a large crater in Alkiad 2. The blast that created the crater seems to have originated from inside the facility itself. Unless Voltum mining techniques were radically different from our own, an equipment failure or accident cannot account for such a massive explosion. And we've got another special project.
Updated.
Probably we don't have... Yeah, we need a skill 4 scientist, so we're still waiting a while on this.
System surveyed.
So a couple of other priorities I have. So now I've got 2 construction ships. I want at least one of them to be dedicated to building...
System surveyed.
sort of expanding out my my colonies. And then... So one will be expanding the borders, and then one will be building infrastructure. So Soyun is the next one because of the mineral resources. And this guy, I'm gonna park him just where the energy is. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to just try and sort of trade them off. So one will be expanding my borders, one will be building some infrastructure, expand the borders,
Technology
you know, so on and so
researched.
forth. Mapping the genome of an individual through the sequencing of their DNA opens up for tailored medical treatments and therapies. So I think planetary unification is nice because of the 2 bonus unity. It's also the least expensive, so... Now, it does take a little while to get going. There are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this asteroid. Lots of precursor activity. But yeah, I have a rough idea in terms of where I'm going to expand out. So again, where I can get mineral resources, I'm going to prioritize that. I'm going to try and make sure that I can sort of close off this area for myself as well, but not. I'm not going to rush it because... You know, the science is nice, this has mineral resources, you know, the energy is nice as well. But just in terms of having... if I only get to expand to one area, knowing that I'll have access to the 4 minerals and 3 energy, that's a pretty big bonus in my view. So, Vir 11B1 is covered in impact craters from asteroid collisions, but one stands out. It appears to have been created through the detonation of some kind of antimatter device. There is evidence elsewhere on the asteroid surface indicating that it was heavily mined by the Voltum at some point roughly 12 million years ago. The large crater we found was presumably the location of their mining outpost.
Situation log updated.
Alright, so Soyun 4. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be able to keep these resources, but if I was going to colonize it, but we're not a savanna-based species, so I'm totally fine earning that. We'll do colonization fever, anticipating new life. And in the meantime, the reason why I started building on Soyun rather than moving on is that Mawir, I have only energy, which I'm going to be needing in a little while, but I don't need it immediately. So, so we've got a guy building here. So I'm going to clear out these sprawling slums, and that's just because I get additional food. Additional food is going to make me grow my species faster. So if I can get more food on a given tile, I'm willing to give up the 75 energy to achieve that. Once I have my construction ships kind of making things... Oh, I definitely want to expand. I'm going to go to Alkiad and Rassel Gethi. One, because it's the shortest path to getting those resources, but number 2, this will also give me the better science opportunity than the 2 engineering that I'll get from here. So,
construction
starbase. Again,
System
I haven't quite worked out the pattern where I don't have an idle construction ship yet, but hopefully we'll work on that before too long. And then whenever I have a mineral surplus, I'm going to be spending it on building some additional ships, because when pirates show up, right now my fleet is particularly weak. But again, getting the resources with which I will build those fleets are a priority for me. It's a little weird playing this on a laptop just because it feels everything's a bit crushed together. It's the one drawback. I might try and go back to the desk if I can, but I have a little extension to my laptop which would allow me to put a DVI port in. So basically to get a second monitor. That's how I usually streamed. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to it. So my at least illusion of comfort is a slightly higher priority than. Another nice thing about Rasselgethi is that as long as I can close that off, then I sort of get to automatically claim all of these systems for myself on my own time. There are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. Lots of precursor stuff.
Anomaly discovered.
We are receiving a weak signal from the surface of this planet. The source appears to be some kind of tracking beacon. So I've got my science ships working on those.
Construction complete.
I've got the expansion out where I want it, so we'll move into the next system.
Construction complete.
Okay. So this has been taken care of now. I think what I'm going to do... well, I might as well build it at Nifra. Vultum engineers at some point built a massive orbital complex near Penosta 1, dedicated to computer research. Strangely, they seem to have ignored the normally popular field of artificial intelligence to focus exclusively on virtual realities and massive computer simulations. Most of the complex has been ruined by weapons fire and micrometeoroids, but what remains is in remarkable condition given the station's age.
Situation log updated.
So... level 3 scientists, so I'm actually going to track these on the map just because I think my high experience guy is gonna hit there before too long. Small short-range transmitter has been located on the surface of Dultari 8. It appears to be an ancient survey marker placed here eons ago to mark a large deposit of precious metals. The miners it was meant for evidently never arrived, and the deposit is still here. Okay, so that gives a fairly high priority to
Anomaly
this area.
discovered.
Scanning the star unveils a small object in rapid orbit. Its small size and high velocity make it difficult for our sensors to isolate. We'll leave it be for now because that is a little too difficult for me to do with my existing skill. So you can sort of see again, if you're starting off in the game, it's a pretty standard loop of just, you know, find some systems to expand to, decide where you want to dedicate your resources in terms of expansion. And just kind of carry on that way until you build up enough infrastructure to be able to do more. There are signs of activity of an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. So now we've got my 100 minerals. Wearing a powered exoskeleton suit augments the user's strength and speed. The military applications are obvious, but it will also increase labor efficiency. So let's go... I think in this case I'm going to do geothermal fracking. The main reason for that is the 540 engineering research compared to the 842 for the military focused stuff, which I don't need right now. So I don't like any of those options, but at least this one has some utility in terms of being something that I can extract resources with. The Eyes of Sin, very good to see you. How are you doing? Thank you very much for your message earlier today, by the way. Panosta 3 was home to a small Vultum outpost where they traded with several neighboring civilizations. At some point, the trade post appears to have been converted into a religious mission, where the Vultum have attempted to convey visiting alien merchants to their philosophy. Trade ceased shortly afterward, and the planet was eventually abandoned. Fascinating.
Situation log updated.
So that's a skill 4. We'll have to wait on that. The buttery man crumpet is here. Isaacson, how do you feel about that?
Construction complete. Construction complete.
Okay, I've got what I need from that system, so I'm actually going to move in. I'm going to go for the energy on Mawir. Oh my goodness. We're so fast with Unity. I need to consider things like agrarian ideal a little bit more often. So in this case, we're going to do a new life. That's just so I can get additional population on systems that I colonize. And these guys are done. Actually, I'm gonna reorganize this slightly. So I'm expanding my borders out to Raman, and that's mostly just so I can take Bintu and then eventually Dultari. I may wind up trying to take something in Penusta, but we'll see what resources are available. Obviously, the individual choices I make matter because I have only so much influence with which to sort of expand out my my empire. So I want to be focusing particularly on resources that will give me additional minerals, and that's mostly because minerals will be what I build the other infrastructure with. So if I have enough minerals, I can build my way out of an energy deficit. I can build my way out of a, you know, maybe a weaker science start. But if I'm waiting, you know, 100 months every time I want to build a you know, even just a mining platform or something like that, it's just too long, and I tend to find minerals are the thing that I'm always running out of early on in the game. All right, physics lab, exploring the mediation. Exploring the mediation of fundamental forces through subatomic particles. So what do I want? They're all 704s. I think I'm going to go for more infrastructure-oriented things, so we'll do global energy management. Part of that's also to keep my costs down for... oh yeah, I was going to build... oh, I can't afford to build, but when I build, I will build here.
System surveyed.
Yeah, so 4 minerals is nice, but it's not, like, I'm not going crazy over it. Okay, so... I'm gonna, well, you know what, I can still make this work, so it's gonna be a very indirect way that I can link these two areas, but I know I'm not gonna have enough influence to do exactly what I wanted.
System surveyed.
Okay, so building a... So the priority that I have here, this was the only size 4 mineral deposit that I have. So it's always going to cost me 1 energy to build that mining platform. But of course, to give up that 1 energy, do I want to earn 2 minerals or 4? Obviously, I get twice as many minerals for the energy expenditure by building there. So you don't always get those options because it is, I'm playing, you'll notice I've gone from playing on normal speed to playing on fast as a default. I think most people would probably be willing to go up to a 3, but as I said, I'm a little boring the way I play this game. We're receiving a weak signal from the surface of this moon. The source appears to be some kind of tracking beacon. So I think that's going to give me potentially more mineral resources. This is an Arctic world, so I'm not going to be able to colonize it.
Construction complete.
But yeah, so obviously you want to factor in things like travel times, but as a good general rule, you want to prioritize the sorts of areas that will let you. You know what? I hate that I'm doing this, but I'll wait until this anomaly is done. But I'm actually going to double back and I'm going to research those trade posts and such. A small short-range transmitter has been located on the surface of Upsoth 6A. It appears to be an ancient survey marker placed here eons ago to mark a large deposit of precious metals. The miners it was meant for evidently never arrived, as the deposit is still here. Okay, so that's good news. I'm going to do the survey here. And I'll do the anomaly. Research. So there might be an argument for me to build another science ship. But for now, I'm gonna use what I have to explore things as they emerge. If I can get all these artifacts researched right away, so much the better. It gets one thing off my plate, and then we potentially find the secret home world faster. Okay. So that's taken care of. Oh, you know what? Okay, good. And
System surveyed.
I'll stop tracking these just because I know they're going to be sorted out.
Construction complete.
I can upgrade that to a physics lab. I'll move you to the farm, and actually I want to build a farm before I upgrade you. I do want that tasty unity. And I've got a free construction ship, so we'll build a spaceport on Bin 2. Panasta does have a pretty good argument, but Bin 2 is the closest system that'll give me those 13 mineral resources. We can take the rest of it as it goes along. I think in reality I'm only going to have one more system that I can colonize, so in this case I do want to focus on Doltari. But again, we'll see where all of this takes us. Okay, so now I only have two size 2 mineral deposits to build ports on. I need to wait one more month before I can build that mining station. But the nice thing here, of course, because I prioritized the high yield resources first, I'm not waiting nearly as long. So basically every 3 months I get to build a mining station, and I'm not quite sure how long it takes me. Through hard work and experience, Science of Petals Olive has developed a new skill, and they've gained the military theory trait. Captain Bear, I don't know. It won't post. Basically, there was a Windows update that came in, and that was the last that I had at work.
Anomaly discovered.
Impressive structures litter Millie 2A's surface, practically begging for some archaeological work.
Anomaly discovered.
So we'll research all of that. One thing I am behind on, I would like to build up some more. Of my military, but again, not at the expense of passing up opportunities to sort of expand my borders or build mining stations. So I'll be a little slow in constructing it, but we should be able to make it up pretty quickly. Okay, so where's my remaining? There we go.
Construction complete.
Large mineral-rich asteroid collided with Millie 2 at some point during the previous 1,000 years in what must have been a major impact event. An abundance of minerals can now be found on the planet in the vicinity of the impact crater. Cool. But yeah, so the only drawback about it, Captain Bear, I have it at a store right now to look into it, but all they're doing is diagnostics. It's entirely possible that something like the motherboard is dead. And if that's true, then I'm probably going to have to send it back to MSI because I believe it should still be under warranty. Just near the end of it, but a deal's a deal. If that is the case, that probably means I will be out of commission on that desktop for a while. If I have to buy one, it probably... So, I mean, obviously I'm making the assumption that I need a new part. If I don't need a new part, that's even better, right? But on the chance that I do need... it is a hardware problem. It technically means it's a bit faster, and what I need to decide is... actually, maybe somebody knows this offhand. Oh no, I'm happy to talk about it, Captain Bear. I'll just finish the PC story. I'll get that out of the way first. Excuse me.
Construction complete.
That was poorly planned on my part. So I have a Skylake, I think it's 6700K. It's 4 gigahertz i7. Now, I know they used, I think it's like the LGA 1151 socket. And I believe that is the standard for the current generation as well, like the Coffee Lake processors. Oh, I'm lacking the influence. So, Just gonna hang out in space for a couple months. So if I have to buy a new motherboard, then that's fine. I can get the new motherboard and not worry too much about upgrading the processor. If the Coffee Lake architecture requires a new slot, then I kind of need to make the decision, well, do I want to buy a motherboard that's compatible with the Skylake that I have, knowing that the Skylake will probably be the next thing that I want to upgrade? Well, actually, video card might be. Anyways, do I get a motherboard which I will have to upgrade alongside the processor, or do I just move my processor upgrade ahead of time and get the two at the same time? Obviously, if it's still the same for the processor, then that's an easy one. I get the state-of-the-art motherboard, and then I can upgrade the processor whenever I want. But I'll figure that all out when it comes up. So, oh yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Ketsi. Hopefully your computer's actually able to turn on. I don't know if you're suffering my problems as well. Courier network. A network of small courier vessels is a reliable alternative to transporting VIPs or delivering messages that can't be trusted to FTL communications. This will tie our far-flung colonies more closely together. So I'm getting this one mostly just for the reduction in tradition cost as I expand out my empire, but I'm not planning on using it right away. Welcome, by the way. I don't think I said hi to you yet. Probability conundrum. We've gotten a report from Science Officer Rhizome of Grey. It seems that a ceramic container is circling the star Panosta, most peculiar. It should obviously not be there, yet somehow it has managed to find its way into a close orbit. A special project can be issued to investigate the container and try to deduce how it ended up here. A conundrum worth investigating.
Situation
you know what?
log updated.
I blew it. Okay. Research the project. Okay. Research. I believe they're not skilled enough for these. And I redo this path one last time, but hopefully it's the final one. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna try. That's so much easier, but I know I'm gonna forget to do this oh so convenient method. Fortunately, it's a casting PC. Every time you boot it, it tries to install a 5 GB update that fails and ends up reverting. That sounds disgusting.
Construction
Ketsi,
complete.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's funny. This is how I got started streaming on this laptop. I used to play Crusader Kings on like a 512K internet connection. So basically the only people who liked watching me were people who were on mobile connections.
Construction complete.
But the thing is, I've learned how dependent I am now on that streaming PC. Like, I really feel out of sorts streaming this way. Now, again, my view is that I should be, if I say I'm casting on Monday, I should cast on Mondays. Like, I'm fairly certain you guys figure that a Monday cast, even on less than ideal, in a less than ideal streaming setup. Ooh, it's expensive, but I do need to start building up my fleet. Is better than just no cast at all, especially because I took a week off for being sick. But with that in mind, I'm still working through. If you don't kill the process quickly enough, it takes it out of action for an hour or so. That's so sad. Mr. Deadpool says your PC does that every few Windows updates. Oh, wow. See, I was not happy about the fact that I was forced into the Windows update that I got. But I seem to have avoided the...
Construction complete.
Weird Starbase has finished its construction queue. I'm curious what my...
Construction
Oh, it's
complete.
just a mineral cost. I'm kind of tempted to take Panosta, because that's going to also give me kind of the doorway to Upsoth. I could presumably also take Lessim to get Millie, which technically would give me more mineral resources, and it would put me on track to a tropical world. That's a tough call. I actually think I will go for Lessim instead. But yeah, I will admit, like, I love to hate Windows. Don't get me wrong, but I've been treated reasonably well by these updates. This is the first time I've had a Windows update. Now, again, the other thing too, like, there's very few Windows updates that I can think of that will just like screw your hardware. Maybe I found the one. But I've really missed a lot of the nonsense that I hear people talking about.
Technology research.
It seems like it was my turn, and it was definitely a heavy one. So, how you doing, Joshy man? Planetary unification, +2 to unity, peace festivals, bonus 10% happiness, additional edicts. Ancient warring tribes, historical nations in conflict, now unified in empire. We must not, will not crumble. I'm not too bad, Joshy man. Obviously, I'm complaining about my PC not being up, but the fact of the matter is I can stream, and there's a very healthy number of you in here. This is one of the things, see, I know I talk about this every once in a while. It's very bittersweet for Stellaris to be popular, because obviously I stream to share games that interest me with people, and to be able to, to be able to have that experience. And obviously I like Stellaris a lot, but of course, as it's more popular and larger streamers are doing it, it makes it a little bit hard. Like I can remember once upon a time, like, a new patch would mean I'd kind of get to be at or close to the top of the list, and that doesn't happen anymore. But for those of you curious about that, I will say unambiguously, it is better to have more people into Stellaris and wanting to play the game, because of course, it's very easy, and I actually, this is a blog that I've been writing, it's very easy to get focused on that number, to just reduce something down to a follow number. Should I talk to this person because they have enough follows or whatever? There are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization in the vicinity of this gas giant. Yeah, that's a tropical world I can colonize as well. But the thing is that that's just, so the whole point of the blog will be largely to point out that
construction complete.
A measure like that only exists to kind of let you know, like, all things being equal, like, are you how do I put this? Are you connecting with the people that you want to, right? And there's all sorts of reasons why a number might go high, all sorts of reasons why a number might go low, but the worst possible reason you could give would be other people are streaming. And that doesn't matter if you're one of these people who says, oh, it's the titty casters who are ruining things for me, or whether you're one of the people who's just like, I mean, obviously, if I wanted to be a complete ass, I could say something to the effect, it was like, oh, people just don't like intelligent conversation. Well, I haven't really said anything intelligent. I've talked a little bit about how I'm approaching, a default race in the game here. What concurrent views and followers can tell you are like, okay, you've been able to connect with people this way. If you see that number go down consistently and you haven't done something that you normally do, that's probably a good signal that was something that people were counting on when you were casting. But yeah, my view is that more people streaming Stellaris, even if that means that I'm not as high up on the rankings as I used to be, it's more fun to play games with more people. And obviously, the more people, the larger people coming in and playing Stellaris means that they're bringing their audience. They're showing them what this game is. And those are going to be people who want to see other Stellaris casts at some point. So stuff like that, in my view, is always an opportunity for people. But with that in mind, like, I do sometimes become a little aware of it when I see, like, every time I go to push Stellaris and I see the number of people streaming it, I'm like, oh, Jesus, it's hard to distinguish myself. So, Oh, there Windows 10 update assistant meets every definition of malware there is. That's a great way of putting it. See, this is the other thing too. I usually stream on. I'm a Mac user unless I have to do PC. So I just kind of hold my nose whenever I want to play a game. So stop being a titty cat. Well, I mean, I am in bed right now. I'll admit I allowed myself not to wear a shirt for tonight's cast. I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I'll bring the blanket up close. By the way, with that in mind, guys, I do want this to be new player friend. Oh yeah, I know Captain Bear, if you're still here, you had a question about how the borders worked, and I got a little distracted. So I'll read this. I'll read this detail, and I'll give you an idea in terms of how that works. We've detected the partial remains of a gas mining station in orbit around Egror 2, which appears Voltum in origin. Its station-keeping thrusters were deliberately fired millions of years ago in an attempt to push the station directly into the gas giant, but a collision with an unknown object prevented this from happening. As much as Windows irritates you, you personally just don't care for Mac. You're just like, why do people like this? Well, one of the big ones for me is that it's a Unix operating system. So I can open up the terminal and I can do all the neckbeardy crap that I sometimes need to do, usually on an empirical project or something like that. But it's friendly enough that I can still go to Disneyland. Like if I want a good GUI, like I know it's cool to hate on Mac, but like I'll be honest, it has all of the things that I like about Linux. Well, okay, not all the things I like. Okay, the ideological things to like about Linux are not there, but like in terms of like the power user stuff, everything I need to do is accessible to me that way. And I think the GUI stuff for it is pretty good. Like I do actually genuinely like Mac OS in an unironic or just a personal preference thing. I'm not going to be an evangelist. I think that was what the 90s were about, Mac users being completely intolerable. But I'll admit, like for purposes of just like getting stuff done, I'm perfectly happy with the platform. But I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna advocate as like a gaming platform or as a I'm not gonna say, oh, if you want to be an economist, you should get a Mac. I mean, use what you know how to work with. But I also haven't been able to justify some kind of sustained complaint against the Mac, other than the fact that I can't play games on it, and frankly, it's better that I don't play games on a work machine.
Construction complete.
After almost giving up hope, studying the accursed ceramic object for so long, we've reached a breakthrough. The object isn't really there, but it is rather a projection from a higher dimension. Analyzing it as a shadow of a fourth-dimensional object, we have accumulated enough data to decrypt its message. The object teaches us how to improve all fields of research. The only question now is, who sent this information? Eureka! Extra-dimensional insights modifier added for 240 months, giving the following effects. Research speed plus 15%. That's a really good bonus. Okay, your moment has come, Captain Bear. So basically, the way borders work are you claim them. It's almost kind of like the New World in the Age of Discovery. So if I want to claim a system, I have to have explored that system. So my current options right now are Saya, Panasta, Upsoth, and Egror. Now if I want to do that, I right-click. I can build a starbase. Starbase will require 100 minerals, and I can't remember exactly the influence cost. It's slightly less because of the traits that I have, but we'll move there in preparation. And basically, you put a stake. You stake a given system, and then on top of that, the stations that you build to stake your claim, you can eventually upgrade them. So you can build it to a starport. You get a limit of number of star bases. And then at your starports, you start with one. You can potentially build ships if you build a shipyard. You can build defensive structures. You can build trading hubs. There's lots of things that you can build with this. But the basic idea is that they have made it so that you have to make specific decisions in terms of where you want to expand and what you want to give up in order to achieve that expansion. And then it also removes weird things like systems that not only have you never been to, but you can't even reach. You don't get to just lay claim to them for some arbitrary reason because you grew a certain number of people on a planet. But yeah, if you have any specific questions about it, Captain Bear, I can give you a little more. Oops, sorry, I forgot to unpause. I can give you a little bit more detail. But that's the gist of it.
Complete.
More comments on Mac. Don't think Mac OS is terrible, but you don't think it's worth doubling the price of a PC. Is it really that much more expensive though? Like my experience has always been, before I got this computer, I was looking at a couple of Lenovo's, and at least in terms of what I could get this for, like it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like, it was far from double. I thought this was a fairly priced product. And the other thing is, every Mac product I've had, I've always replaced it because it got too old. I've never replaced it because it was like it broke. I can't say that for all the PCs I've owned, unfortunately. You had a Compaq, admit that it was a piece of junk that you got for like $4. Sure, but I mean, I definitely wouldn't compare, like on a quality adjusted basis. Like, so this is one of the things that I do at work, right? I have to do a price index, which is sort of quality adjusted, and it's specifically for computer parts. Sensor echoes have indicated the presence of some kind of unidentified object deep within the atmospheres of this gas giant. So now, obviously, what I'm saying is not a statement based on that research. If you want that, you can read my papers. But not that I write papers on that. I'd make an index based on that. But yeah, like I can't say I was like bowled over by how much more expensive an Apple product was. But then, I mean, again, I haven't like, it's not like I look at individual computer prices as a consumer. Anytime I need to do something like that, I have a program that runs that. So, no, for that price, you'd get an iPad. Yeah. The banner of our great empire will one day be as common as hydrogen throughout the galaxy. So this will give me a bonus to those starports that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. And now we get an ascension perk. So if I really want to expand out my borders, we can go for Interstellar Dominion. That's actually really tempting. I already have my technological ascendancy from the ceramics. Unity is a nice bonus, but definitely don't need the extra. Okay, so Mastery of Nature is tempting for the tile blockers. One Vision is tempting for the Unity, but I mean, I already have a bit of a surplus, so either Technological Ascendancy or Interstellar Dominion, and I think Interstellar Dominion is just too good for the borders. I've been focusing on that, so we'll go for it. That's Mr. Deadpool says, see, your MacBook Pro ranges from lowest end at £1,200, the higher end to £2,700. You've spent less than $900 on your PC, and you're running a 960 GTX SC, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and an i5 that runs most games on Ultra. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that falls back to, so like, you're never gonna, I mean, so here's the big thing, right? Like, I'm not a Mac apologist, and I'm definitely not going to advocate it as a gaming platform, but like, I really like the Retina monitor.
Complete.
And I know those aren't cheap. The archaeologists investigating this Vultum orbital complex above Penasta 1 have stumbled upon an interesting find. They managed to recover a partial copy of what was apparently a fairly popular multi-user virtual reality game enjoyed by billions of Vultum across their empire. Although the game takes place in a fictional and highly satirized version of their contemporary society, it has proved an invaluable source of information on both their language and customs. So that's 60 physics research for that. You have one of the higher end MacBooks, and honestly, there's something to be said for just being able to pick your machine up and take it home, and you run 3 screens at work. Yeah, I'm missing my little dongle for the DVI port, but I'd only be running it on one extra monitor. But yeah, I mean, again, I can't complain about this machine. It's how I got started streaming. You know, when I run MATLAB on it, when I run R on it, I'm happy with it. You know, Unity runs fine. I mean, I've even on this thing, I've been able to play like Alien Isolation. I haven't been able to play it like on my desktop PC, but my desktop PC cost me more than this thing. So the MSS Soaring Leaf has picked up a strange energy signature coming from somewhere deep inside the atmosphere of Thabit 2. It appears to originate from a structure of some kind, possibly the remains of an orbital station, but the atmospheric pressure makes it impossible to approach. Nevertheless, scans of the unique signature have yielded a large amount of valuable physics data. 2 cables, you're hooked up to the 3 screens, power, mouse, keyboard. Really convenient. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I went for a laptop originally. I actually didn't think I was going to get a desktop PC ever again, but I did get back into gaming, partially because of streaming. That's a really backward way of doing it, I realize it. But once the streaming thing sort of kicked off,
Construction complete.
it seemed fairly apparent that I needed to put a little capital into doing it well. I bought a microphone before I bought anything. Pirates are going to be a problem. Incidentally, Captain Bear, another thing about the new border system is if you do so, like obviously there. I also need to make sure that I'm building up my fleet. Not quite ready for that. If you sort of leave these little holes in a system, that's going to be a really good spot for pirates to spawn out of them. So you also kind of want to make sure that your borders are all playing nicely. But again, you trade that off against the fact that if if you keep focused in your own little neighborhood, you're not necessarily going to get all the good stuff. So you kind of have to get a balance between the two. A new faction has recently been gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Malware caretakers. Led by life-giver Paulus, they call themselves the Progress Promotion Network. Their members lobby for a national focus on financial growth and stability through peaceful means. A disgruntled faction will be a source of trouble, but one that approves of the government's actions could prove useful. Okay, so these guys are kind of neutral. Strategic resource acquisition, so that should be a research priority to try and get one of those resources. And I may want to consider prosperity. It's a tough call, though.
Construction complete.
I think I'm going to skip the engineering research as much as I want it. I am going to be colonizing these planets before too long.
Construction complete.
So, and then I believe Nifra. Yeah, Nifra is also a planet that I'm going to take. So, let's get some energy, I guess.
Special project complete.
Closer examination of the destroyed Volta mining base on Vir 11B1 has uncovered some of the abandoned mining equipment in a surviving tunnel. It was uniquely designed for use with their worm-like anatomy, and it appears to have been operated primarily through the body vibrations they used to communicate. So, some much-needed engineering research. And I guess here I will build the...
Technology researched.
Okay. So there's my energy grid, and I guess I'll start with assist research. I might want to consider building another science ship, but we'll see. Because I have a feeling this guy is going to be occupied before too long. I think we're about halfway through the cast. Again, I'm happy to just give voice to the individual decisions that I'm making. But as always, especially for those of you who've been on the fence about whether or not you want to start playing Stellaris, definitely feel free to ask any sort of starting level questions. We're still in an exploration stage. Now, obviously, your empire is not going to look like this in terms of your borders and such. But I've been trying to explain here in terms of I need some mineral resources, so I'm going to prioritize those. Next up, I'm going to be expanding out and sort of making sure that my borders don't have too many gaps inside of them so that I don't have any enemies that spawn. But if you have any questions along those lines, or it's not clear in terms of why I made a particular decision, don't hesitate to bring it up. Studying the different forms of life that appear on our world helps us better understand ourselves and the life that surrounds us. So... minimum cost is 780. It is kind of tempting for the off-world trading company because I know I'm going to be building... So I like Unity, but again, I'm building so much of it. The real question, sorry, I'm trying to get a pillow in a way that I don't have things jabbing into my back. So this will take me 39 months to research versus 48. Off-world trading company will help me with energy credits. You know what? I'm gonna go for the heritage site for now. Just double down on my my Unity gain. And again, the main reason for that Unity gain, you kind of got to see here my my starbase costs are trivial, and being able to get I mean, I'd love Colossus Project. Actually, it wouldn't be as helpful for me for this civilization, but basically being able to get some of these things like One Vision and Technological Ascendancy, those are pretty powerful. Also, obviously, if I have a means of getting getting the prosperity tradition, that will help me with my faction, which of course means that I'm going to be getting additional influence, which means I'll be able to sort of gobble up some additional systems.
Technology researched.
Okay, so mining network 2. New fracking techniques allow us to tap into previously unattainable pockets of geothermal resources deep beneath the planet's crust. We can get afterburners, mineral processing plant, nebula refinery. I'm not crazy about any of these, but I think I'm going to go for the mineral processing because it's a little more it's industry focused, and we will build out another Corvette. One thing I do try to do once I've got a little bit of an industrial base is I try to hit the cap for my naval capacity. Now this is slightly changed because you'll notice that there's a command limit here. So a given fleet can only have 20 ships, and I have a capacity for 21. But the idea here is that if you have a big navy, that will help. That'll help you in the sense that your neighbors will be less willing to just kind of come in and try and take your things.
Construction complete.
It's a
Construction
even if you don't plan on being a warmonger, it's nice to have a deterrent in place. Let's get you. I think we'll finally start building up my flagging industry. You know what? I hate to do this, but I think I am actually going to build another starbase. There we go. Okay, before we do any of that, alarming reports coming in from the frontiers of our space. Since we've discovered space travel, violent fringe groups of the Garden have departed our homeworld in increasing numbers, spurning the peaceful ways of our society. These misguided individuals call themselves the Feral Companions, and they have converted several civilian vessels into warships. They now prey on civilian shipping as pirates, and their wanton attacks have led to many deaths. Drastic measures may be needed to protect our people. Okay, so we will start plugging in some of the gaps at Thabit, and unfortunately I need to sort of sit and wait to see where they're coming from, but in the meantime, I think I'm going to go for the Trickster because of the sublight speed. So, Franz of Khaki. Congratulations, you are now an admiral in a peaceful society. By the way, I hope the fan isn't too loud.
Hostile fleet sighted.
There we go. Pirate fleet feral companions have been detected on a direct course towards the Alkid system. Sorry guys, just need one quick second in another tab. Cool. Yeah, I need to get used to my setup. Okay, so presumably they either came from Panasta or this black hole. Cute. Nope, actually, if they're coming from Saya... Oh yeah, I don't know what I was thinking there. Okay.
We must defend our spaceport.
I'm not sure if we'll get there in time.
System surveyed.
looks like we get a bit of
System
a show.
surveyed.
There's signs of activity by an
Construction
ancient
complete.
precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. Unexplained itch, scallywag, 4 lights. Guess I should get in so you guys can see the good stuff. Okay, so again, as long as I don't lose ships, I'm happy. Especially if I don't lose mining resources. So one of the things that this new system does is if you want to just recklessly expand sort of the way that I used to in the earlier days of playing this game, what you do is you potentially lose your mineral resources in the form of getting your infrastructure destroyed. So basically you're going to lose mining platforms, you're going to lose things like that. Now it's all well and good. I mean, you do get some big territory gains, and that's not to be that is no small thing. But in the end, what you need to decide, like what you gain in terms of those resources, you potentially give up in terms of things like needing to maintain your navy, needing to replace certain buildings and such. So it's a system that I like. It's annoying when they spawn in places you don't want them to spawn, but I think the system works pretty well in my opinion. Alright, signs of Voltum activity in the vicinity of Telandra 3 turned out to be false leads. Science Officer Rhizome of Grey has asked to continue the search with the MSS Soaring Leaf elsewhere. So here we will take out a base.
Engaging hostile station.
Sorry I can't give you the... I'll try and set things up so I can do some proper angles and dramatic shots like when I'm on the PC, but... The burgeoning Corolla has destroyed a pirate station in the Saya system and has recovered the strong room module. 50 credits, 80 minerals. Go heal yourselves. Construction ship. I think... What do I want to do with these guys? I think I'm just going to keep...
Construction complete.
Building... Alright. This one I want to just keep building up the infrastructure, and then we're going to go back to our old habits of expanding the borders, because I think we've been a little slow in terms of expanding things out, so they should be able to sort of plug up some of the gaps. So Clea will be taken care of. I think I'll probably take Panasta and Upsoth and all that, especially because this ship's going to be exploring these systems. Let's go... Alright, well, I'll wait till these are explored. But yeah, we'll see kind of what's available to us in these areas. I mean, 8 minerals, not too bad. I am ignoring science a little bit, but it doesn't seem like there's any particularly good science systems in the area. Oh, and looks like I have somebody who's not working on... Yes, okay, so we'll build a science lab here. We'll build an energy grid here. We'll upgrade... And because I have a little bit of a surplus...
Construction complete.
I think I'm just gonna clear all these out for now. Okay.
System surveyed.
Desperately need that engineering research, so... And in the meantime... Oh, I don't have enough resources. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the trading hub first, and then I can start building out my construction ships. Tranquil, sorry, is it Tranquil or Tranquil? Surviving Mars and Stellaris? Thank you very much for saying so. One reason I'm not doing Surviving Mars right now is my PC is not doing so well. So I'm playing on the laptop, and I have noticed that I can't quite get the graphics settings to the to where I'd feel good doing Surviving Mars.
System surveyed.
And of course, Monday is Grand Strategy Night anyway. So it seemed to make really what the question came down to was whether or not I was going to do Stellaris or whether or not I was going to do Europa Universalis. And I do have a save game that I've kind of continued to do backscattering spectrometry
Complete.
sensors indicate the presence of valuable substances beneath Voon 2's noxious clouds.
Construction complete.
But yeah, so I have a bigger campaign that we've been doing on Mondays. Now that's a local save, unfortunately. This is a tough call. Through hard work and experience, Governor Petals of Aquamarine has developed new skills. I think I am going to I'm going to go for this system, and either this or this. And the main reason for that is they're fairly natural choke points. And I haven't been thinking about that as closely as I should. So I'll sort of finish off my expansions out here, and then I can focus on this area again. But yeah, anyway, so you know, Stellaris has been the thing, and I know there's been like a new DLC released for Europa Universalis 4, so I'm sure that's being very well covered by others. So I figured we'll do the tried and true for this Monday. I might still do Europa Universalis if I have to be on the laptop for a long time, but this seemed like a good opportunity to, especially for people who hadn't thought of playing the game yet. Obviously, a lot of people like the way that I give voice to a lot of the decisions that I make inside the game, so it's always nice to take an opportunity to start a new game and let people see sort of my current thinking of the game and why I'm making certain decisions, particularly with borders, for instance. So, but as always, thank you very much for the compliments. It's really it's nice to hear. I mean, if I can be permitted a little bit of arrogance, I can say, you know, it's nice to get them so frequently, but it's something that's hard to take for granted, because it's, you know, I mean, there's no shortage of people on the YouTube VODs who like letting me know that they they don't care for my stuff, but it's nice. It's just sort of nice to have that recognition. Voon 2 is exceptionally rich in minerals that are, unfortunately, of no use to us. However, Science Officer Petals of Olive believes that many of the elements in the crust of Voon 2 can be transformed into potentially more useful forms through positron bombardment. The MSS Soaring Leaf requests that the Mawir caretakers set aside 100 energy credits for the purposes of this project. Very well. Ready the positron charges.
Situation log updated.
Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here, and this is research survey. Yeah, I'm happy with that path. Okay, what do we want to do with the guys at Ranaman? I think this is going to be my infrastructure team now, so we'll start by building a nice big research center. I probably should have gone for the minerals, but there you have it. What else? I'm actually going to hold off on upgrading that building. Now, if I want to make my faction happy, I will go for prosperity. If I want to take advantage of my unity bonus, I would go for harmony, especially because it'll give me a better growth speed. I get the bonus unity from It's super hard to justify, but I think I am going to go for prosperity. Hey!
Special project complete.
The crew of the MSS Soaring Leaf are pleased to report that the experiment was a success and a significant number of dense mineral veins on Voon 2 have been transmuted into usable resources. Excellent. Right. So I thought that was going to give me influence. If I'd known that that wasn't going to be enough to give me influence, I would have gone for harmony, but I can always change that around later. In the meantime, let's upgrade my buildings on the garden. This should be for physics. Upgrade my mining network. And I'm
Anomaly discovered.
shy on minerals, so I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to finally build that trading hub.
Researched.
We've detected life signs coming from somewhere beneath the barren and lifeless surface of this planet. What manner of organism could possibly live here? Let's research to find out. High-capacity quantum bands dedicated to databank transfers make possible virtually completely synchronous research operations across vast distances.
System surveyed.
Research speed plus 5% seems pretty great to me, so I'm gonna live with that. Nice 10 mineral planet. I will add that to my list of things to take. And what else do we have here?
Construction complete.
I think we're just going to move straight on to Voon. Some kind of burrowing silicon-based life form inhabits a vast network of tunnels beneath the barren surface of Crash 4. As best as we can tell, the creatures feed off rocks, and there is evidence to suggest that they possess a rudimentary form of intelligence. Their tunneling efforts have shuffled large amounts of valuable minerals to the surface. That's on Crash right here. So obviously I didn't get... Oh, yeah, I can still build the trading hub. That's just to, give me a little more energy. I mean, I'm doing fine for energy. Now, what I'll probably wind up wanting to do before too long is building... I'll probably want to build another construction ship and probably another science ship. But I think I need to wait until... I'm at a point where I'm sort of either tapped out on my existing... in my existing borders. Alternatively, I need to do it when when I'm earning enough minerals to basically constantly keep my construction ships busy. The one thing I don't like having are sort of idle. I don't like having idle ships. Physical reminders of how far we have come both instill a reverence for past achievements and bolster ambitions for the future.
Surveyed.
Let's... the debris field 425Y71 is part of rolls and swirls under the influence of unknown forces. There. And I don't normally go for the farming ones, but in this case I'm going to go for the hydroponics farm. That's partially to help offset my growth problems. Okay, you can start building more mineral resources. Okay, 156. Let's see, we should be...
Construction complete.
Oh, we're still short on for the Unity building. And then my construction ships are going to want to build some stuff as well. Oop. On closer inspection, the asteroid 425Y71 is found to be silent. One of Petals of Olive's assistants eventually confesses that they may have misread the instruments.
Construction complete.
Sounds like me at work. Kidding. Alright, so there's nothing to claim immediately. I know I'm going to gobble it up anyway, so I might as well get in position. The asteroid recently suffered an impact from another body within the asteroid belt, which resulted in a slightly
Construction
changed orbit
complete.
of a massive crater on the surface. Research. And you can build a research station. Right. So, when I'm a little bit more comfortable in terms of my my industrial base, I'm going to build a second science ship to explore these areas and probably expand out to them. I think my next expansion targets will probably be along these lines, although again, if I find something fancy in these systems, so much the better. I'm not sure how many other civilizations there are in here. I was originally going to do a tiny map, but that doesn't allow for fallen empires. It doesn't mean that there is one. It's a 0-1 probability, assuming it's equally weighted. So basically, it's a coin flip. If it's not equally weighted, I don't know. Upon closer examination, we have discovered that a smaller asteroid consisting almost entirely of precious metals recently collided with DTLF 758. The small but dense cache of metals was hidden just beneath the asteroid's surface, but now that it has been discovered, it should be accessible to mining. Well, lots of cool stuff we're finding over there.
System surveyed.
How are you for your
Construction
examinations? I still have a couple to go. I mean, it's not a very impressive system, but it does let me close off... excuse me. It does let me close off a few borders which have been sort of dangling, so... Again, where I can, I like to prioritize... Oops. Where I can, I like to prioritize the higher yields. That is not like a mind-boggling insight by any stretch of the imagination. But it does mean, I mean, one, I'm getting them earlier. I'm getting more resources earlier. It also means that I am getting the most effective, the highest performing resources. So basically, if I consider the costs of producing it, 1 energy, if I can get a 4 for that energy, that makes a lot more sense than getting a 3. Again, that is not a deep insight into the game, but it's one of these things where it's very easy to get by without really paying that kind of attention to what you're doing. But if you do little efficiencies like that and you internalize them, what it usually translates into is just an improved, how do I put it? Kind of an improved, like over time, basically. If I had met, like, for those of you who've seen me play this game before, I've definitely had plenty of times where I've not lived that.
Construction complete.
I've not lived that priority, basically. But the nice thing about it is when you do think that way, sort of the aggregate of those individual decisions that you make, they add up and they translate into an advantage in a time when you actually need them. That's kind of the main reason why I harp on about things like that. And again, if you build up the habit of being a little mindful of some of the resources that you're working with or potentially giving up, it just allows you to be a bit more effective. Allows you to be a bit more effective for those times when maybe you do need to make a big decision, and you've already built up that habit of sort of looking at the relevant stats. All right, organizational circuitry, rerouting, academic fervor. Colony development speed plus 50% is very tempting. It's that or faster survey speed. I think I'm going to go for the colony development speed because before too long I am going to need to start. I am actually going to start to need. I'm going to start needing to colonize those systems. The longer I wait for colonizing the systems, the actually, you know what? Let's get that underway now. Oh, it's 315. I'm probably going to run out of money. I'm not going to have
anomaly discovered.
Strong energy emissions of an unknown origin make this asteroid stand out from the rest of its peers in a crowded asteroid field. We'll start with that. Yeah, I think we're going to sit... I'm going to sit on my hands for a little bit. And so we've got size 15 and 16 and a size 19.
Discovered.
So I think the size 19 tropical world, all things being equal. No nasty anomalies. Basically lots of food and lots of nasty things that will kill my guys. Zif 1. Fewer blockages. This particular asteroid is an extrasolar capture. It appears to have been washed by some kind of exotic radiation as it plummeted through interstellar space before finally setting in the Stellaris system. The original source of this radiation remains unknown. The MSS Soaring Leaf has been able to pick up a wealth of physics data by studying this asteroid's energy emissions. You know what, I think I will actually build. I think I'll build on this planet. Wigmore 1 frequently experiences massive and extremely violent storm systems in its atmosphere. Several dozen persistent storms are visible from orbit, with winds often reaching speeds in excess of 700 meters a second. The cause of these storms is not immediately apparent, as we have found nothing on the planet's climate model that would explain them. Our scientists are interested in studying the anomaly. I might as well move them to the spot. Or, actually, what am I doing? I can build out here. But I'm not going to, because I'm going to build a colony ship first. Then I can expand. Sorry. Not paying attention like I should.
Anomaly discovered.
Debris field, which R2-800 is part
Anomaly
of.
discovered.
Class 12 asteroid orbits this planet. The small planetoid's orbit appears to be too stable for its presence to be a natural occurrence. And I don't know what the other one said, but... Oh, Guello 5. I don't know if you're still here. I don't blame you if you haven't, because half an hour ago you waved and I did not notice you. My apologies. I am getting used to the new screen, so... but if you are still here, sorry about that, and thanks for staying. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to go for... Well, I mean, I can expand the leader pool. I do like Off-World Trading Company, though, so I'm gonna keep with that. Okay, so those are my farming subsidies taken care of. I think I'm just gonna...
Construction complete.
Dump some money into this. I'll maybe do it one at a time. The lawless Airness system has become a safe haven for an increasing number of pirates, smugglers, and various other criminal elements. These outlaws are based beyond the current boundaries of civilized space, but they frequently venture into our systems in search of victims. They must be dealt with. Alright. I was actually moving a construction ship there, so that's going to get interesting. Good news is they're not...
Evading hostiles.
Oh no.
System surveyed.
So it looks like they're going to be meeting my... Oh. Who followed? Celebrand, thank you very much for that follow. Yeah, it is very difficult to do this on the laptop. I really appreciate the follow, though. Thank you. An unusually deliberate geometric configuration of minerals drifts through the debris belt by 4H45 and is possibly of alien origin. Okay. So I'm already building my colony ship. I will continue to build... Again, I am sort of neglecting my science, unfortunately. But what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be building out my... I'm going to be building out my industrial capacity through these mining stations. And then the idea here is that that will give me enough of a base to sort of be able to do these kinds of upgrades. Ones that will allow me to get additional research, so better labs and such. And then, of course, the nice thing here, this is, it's the first time I'm playing one of the, actually, other than the very first time I played when it first came out and I played the Ixodar, this is the first time I'm playing sort of a paradox-generated, sorry, I didn't know I was paused, a paradox-generated empire, so I tend not to play pacifist normally, so I've got a few things to learn there as well. For some reason, someone has towed an asteroid into a stable orbit around Aurelius 2. The massive engine sections and braking thrusters can still be found on the surface, although they've long since been rendered inoperable. Whoever did this also mined the asteroid for minerals. But these operations were seemingly abandoned shortly after they began.
Hostile fleet sighted.
Alright, so let's just slightly adjust the priority of the... that's a 279. Okay, but that's against my 328, so we're still safe. I don't know whether or not my my platforms are going to survive, but at least we've got the good guys
We must defend
on the
our
way.
spaceport.
They are going after the spaceport first, so they'll be weakened up a little bit before they go after any mining stations. And we're only one system away, so if it turns out like last time, I'll be happy. As far as construction is concerned, we're going to get a little boost mineral-wise. The mineral construct is, for lack of a better term, a room. Made out of the same type of minerals in common use in common use in the Marware caretakers, the construct is a hollow icosahedron. Resonance scans indicate that it is mostly hollow and was likely inhabited at some point in time. Unlike its pristine exterior, the interior is in complete disarray, possibly the result of an intentional act of sabotage. Science Officer Rhizome of Grey reports that this makes it difficult to learn anything of value from the construct's insides, but stresses that the engineering techniques involved in creating the outer shell, eminently capable of withstanding the stresses of deep space, must have been tremendously advanced. So Rhizome of Grey gains additional experience and the Voidcraft trait. This guy's got to hang out for a bit while we wait for the battle. Frag machine, obscenity, roadkill, learning experience. I really do like the pirate names in this patch. Okay, did we lose anything? We did not. Good news there. We'll also be able to research their clearly better technology. And now, hopefully we will administer justice. Okay, so we've got some idle construction ships. Let's fix that. The Dualtari one is the one I'm most interested in because we're almost done building out that infrastructure. I feel, even though I know I'm going to need to expand my borders in a minute, I do also want to continue to build out my fleet. As I said, if I can get to the fleet cap, that acts as a deterrent. So, optimal processing of mined minerals have allowed us to reach new levels of efficiency. Good news. And I finally get to build my engineering facility. I know I'm short on weaponry, and I should be focusing on that. But that's a science building that I definitely need. 300 minerals, very respectable. The burgeoning Corolla has destroyed the pirate station in the Airness system and recovered its strong room module. So you
Construction
can
complete.
heal up. I think I'm gonna keep them on their. Well, you know what?
Construction
Before I do
complete.
that, we'll get the debris taken care of. And what else? Okay, well that guy's gonna take care of... Yeah, alright. I think I'm just gonna rebuild that.
Construction complete.
We'll decide after that. Okay, colony ships sitting idle, so we'll toss you onto Zif 1. Seems to kind of be where they'll do the most damage. Alright, 2 idle construction ships makes me sad, so we'll get you to build a research station, and we'll get you to to expand our borders to Aranis, and actually we might as well add Dorellis, and then we will build 2 new corvettes, and then I guess because
Construction complete.
I have oodles of minerals now, we might as well upgrade. Again, it doesn't seem like the farms are getting me any additional unity, but the nice thing, of course, is because I do have the slow growth penalty, being able to build this surplus food is something that will offset those losses. After finding out that really the only thing that's going to make these guys happier is the strategic resource acquisition, I think I might actually make my next Unity buy a Harmony boost, because Harmony is what I would have picked over Prosperity with my own preferences. The only reason I took it was to make the faction happy for the additional influence, seeing as I'm not getting the additional influence. I mean, unless it's Pursuit of Profit. Pursuit of Profit is actually genuinely a good one for me to get because of the Unity production. Ooh. So I get a growth speed bonus of 25%. I'll go for the Harmony too. I never do 2 paths at once. And then I'm going to decide... Yeah, that wasn't the right call to make. I should have gone for Prosperity. I'll finish out the Prosperity tree. I'm not sure if I want to stick with Harmony, but I'll decide.
Colonization
I'll decide at the moment.
initiated.
Our colony ship has found a rare patch of open ground in the jungles of Zif Prime and made planetfall. The landing site is surrounded on all sides by lush vegetation. The sentry drones have been deployed to guard against predators. The ship has been permanently converted into an administrative headquarters of the new settlement, and its reactor core is in the process of being removed so that it may serve as the colony's temporary power source. Hundreds of small tents and prefab shelters have sprung up around the former ship's massive hull as colonists begin to disembark in large numbers. The first Mawir city on an alien world. Great day for the Mawir caretakers, and 60 engineering for my trouble.
System surveyed.
At first glance, the planet does not seem capable of
Construction
supporting living
complete.
beings, but nevertheless, we have detected life signs emanating from somewhere beneath the frozen surface. And let's start by building a research station. Then I'll move on to the ever-important mineral wealth. We've encountered some form of alien vessels in the Egro system. These strange objects have been flagged as the Epsilon Menace until we can learn more about them. Oop. Contact report enigmatic spacefarers. The Garden is in an uproar following news of identified ships sighted in the void. Their intentions unknown. It would be prudent to assume the worst. Alright, let's see. That definitely is a science ship, so we've got horrible... Oh my god, what is invading our borders? I might retool my science fleet to try and close up any gaps with this this new potential rival. All right, let's investigate the Epsilon Menace. And we're definitely going to need to build out our fleets. I mean, it could be friendly too. Alright, so we've got autocannons, ceramo metal, materials, afterburners, gravitic sensors, ion thrusters, fuse. Ooh, it's all good stuff.
An alien empire is reaching out to us.
After successfully translating their language, we have established communications with the Holy Verzak Imperium. Diplomatic channels are now open and all hostilities have been terminated. Alright. They're a divine empire. They're slaving despots. Well met. I represent the Holy Verzak Imperium, led by the illustrious God Emperor Irbi I. We rule our region of space under a divine mandate, and so long as you do not interfere in our spiritual affairs, our relations may remain cordial. We have no desire for conflict. Frustrations. Yes, it is, Joshy man. Obviously, with the because my PC is being well, actually maybe not obviously, but because my PC is being repaired, I don't have the same save file. I didn't make it a cloud save, unfortunately. First alien encounter. The news that we have encountered intelligent alien life for the first time has shaken our society to the core. Leaked footage of these bizarre creatures is spreading through media outlets across the man we are caretakers, and many citizens have been gripped by panic. Rioting has been reported in several cities on the Garden. The strange Xenos appear to have achieved a level of technology similar to our own, and they are clearly spacefaring. Whether they regard our great species with fear, hatred, or cold indifference is anyone's guess. We should assume the worst. Okay. Deep scans of Kebdaran 1 have revealed a large ocean heated by hydrothermal vents beneath the ice mantle covering the surface. Science officer Rhizome of Grey dispatched probes from the MSS Soaring Leaf that drilled through several miles of thick ice and found the water below teeming with what appears to be life. We need more resources to conduct a thorough study of the many unique life forms inhabiting this ocean. Okay, where's the Soaring Leaf?
Situation log updated.
I am okay with that. So I'm going to keep them doing their thing. But I am going to pull my other science ship to see if we can box these guys in. So I think they'll like me for my government form, but we won't like them because of we're xenophobes. And apparently they closed the borders on me without telling. Or did we close the borders on them? By giving control of the colony ship to an artificial intelligence, the crew and colonists can be suspended in a deep sleep. Oh, we're still building the colony, so that's good. Okay, I can improve my sensors, which I really like. Well, these are all combat you know what? This is so cheap, though. I am going to pay for this if I wind up going to war with these guys, but... Okay, science ship time. That was actually a great time for that to happen too. So we'll explore all the potential borders. So for boxing them in, I mean, egg grower's really it. But I don't know. We'll see. I think at this point I think we'll just let the border sort itself out based on our exploration. Oops. Sorry, I've got a window flying open in front of me.
Construction complete.
There we go. Let's just keep churning out those ships until we find other things to do. We've allowed you to move about freely in our territory for too long. Today we draw the line. So we'll do a non-aggression pact. From a non-aggression pact with this empire, we'll be unable to attack each other while this is in effect. This will increase their trust of us by plus 0.5 each month up to a maximum of 50.
Construction complete.
And that's fine by me. I'm definitely not looking for any fights. We cannot see what either of us would stand to win from a war. We agree to enter into a pact of non-aggression. Now this may change once I start taking territory that's close to them, but they can figure out my intentions later.
Complete.
Okay. Now in the garden, I kind of want to keep focusing on minerals, so we'll build that. I might build a mineral processing facility here, depending on what other options are available. For now, we'll just continue with the sort of the same routine. I still need to build 6
Special
more ships to hit
project
my...
complete.
Oh, sorry, just small technical problem. Need 6 more ships to get to my fleet cap. Then I think we'll probably be a little bit more focused on some of my other priorities, like building as many colony ships as I can. Although, I mean, once I get my... I guess I really only have 4 more colonies. 1, 2... Oh, only 3 more. I really only have 3 more colonies to build, and right now I'm in a small energy deficit just because of the development. So, I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if I relax for a little bit. Of course, I can improve that energy deficit just by building in the right systems. So I'm going to basically be either going right up to the wire or potentially running a small energy deficit. And then my decision basically has to be, do I want to maybe start, building in Thabit and stuff like that to boost up my energy, or do I run the deficits while Zif gets itself established? And I'll figure that out at the time. So, Science Officer Rhizome of Grey has returned from the expedition that studied the rich biosphere in the seas beneath the ice mantle of Kebdaran 1. Several large species native to the lower regions of the global sea have been found to produce a unique inorganic molecule with immense healing properties. If this molecule is successfully harvested in large enough quantities, it could revolutionize the field of medical science, and may even have industrial applications. So we discovered living metal, and there was experience and social research to be had for the effort. Probably should check out that anomaly, but I think what I'm going to do... Yeah, actually with him, he's still level 4, so we'll
Construction complete.
research these. Once they're done sort of tooling around there, we'll decide what the next best path will be. Okay, so I need to decide whether or not I want to build out in these areas, or if I want to expand my borders. I think I'll expand the borders to where I can. And I think for here, I'm going to try and keep a balanced budget where I can. So that means energy mines, even though Millie can have some minerals. Okay, you're not building on what I want you to build on, so let's get a mining network there. I'll also be able to upgrade that fairly shortly, although I'm pretty sure that's going to cost me a little too much energy. What else? Yeah, I actually don't think this is a terrible decision to move my construction ship to sort of expand out these borders here. This ship's going to take a while to sort out where the natural borders to these guys lie. So I'm going to be able to start sort of expanding out to these systems which have been neglected for a little while. And ideally I'll expand out in a way that sort of has some intuitive sense. So, Panosta, Upsoth, are sort of the two obvious ones. Telandra's probably next. Theglin, because it's got 6 minerals. But of course, if we suddenly see that there's some good opportunities here, I'll revise those decisions. I'm lucky that even though I'm maybe not crazy about the fact that I'm not generating influence off of my faction, the fact that it costs me so little to be able to expand my borders is something that's been helping me quite a bit. Also, I need to keep cranking out those ships. My view is the sooner I finish cranking out the military ships, then the faster I'll be able to do things like build colony ships and, additional research ships and such. Okay, so first thing I should build is an Autothon monument, because that's what good... actually, that's not the first thing I should build, because I get unity from farms.
Technology researched.
Then we build the Autothon monument.
System surveyed.
Trade across interstellar distances represents a new set of challenges to overcome. It is critical to achieve the transfer of goods from one system to another in a timely and above all cost-efficient manner.
Researched.
And I can boost my leader lifespan. I can get... Oh, planetary capital is a pretty good one, even though growth speed is the alternative. I am going to go for new capitals. Modulated fields allow for increased production and improved energy yield. So for that,
complete.
I think we're going to go for the faster... I probably should have got that earlier, if I'm totally honest. Okay, so this will help me with some of my energy problems. I can upgrade the minerals later. And my construction ships are going at a pretty fair clip. Actually, technically don't need the... I technically don't need the energy anymore, but I have it. This guy is going to become my new expansion, fleet.
Evading hostiles.
We've encountered some form of alien vessels in the Hikshar system. These strange objects have been flagged as the Zeta Menace until we can learn more about them. We should proceed with caution. So what's the deal here? Space whales. I think they're just hanging. I always thought they moved. Yeah, so this guy... Alright. Well, that's it's kind of an obstacle for my neighbors too.
Construction complete.
Okay, I don't quite have something for you to do yet, so I think we'll get you to continue building energy. I do need to consider another colony ship relatively soon.
Technology researched.
Finally have our engineering facilities. Applied instrumentation allows for the study and practical application of physical systems at nanometric scales. So I can build robots would actually be quite good because that will allow me to build additional pops, but I think I'll hold off on it for now. The species encountered by our fleet some time ago are new spaceborne life forms, quickly named the space amoeba following an analyst's gross misreading of the initial sensor output. The creature is in fact larger than the average Marware corvette. Despite its apparent ordinariness, further study is warranted. We can remotely monitor the creature and its kin from the garden. Issue a special project for remote space amoeba study.
Situation log updated.
Why not? Okay. So... Ceramo metal armor is the cheapest out of the options, but ion thrusters... I think they give evasion. So I think I'm going to go for the better engines. I usually am not going to complain about having faster ships in most cases, so... Get out a cheeky little Corvette. I only need 3 more of those to hit my cap. In reality, I'm probably just going to build 2 more because I don't see a lot of... I don't think there's a lot of sense in just having one Corvette sort of hanging around waiting to get picked off. It takes up resources and it's not very effective on its own. Let's see what else I can do in the meantime. This is behaving the way that I want it to. I kind of want to gain some insight in terms of the mysteries of what's going on, and then also to be able to get that additional research as far as precursor artifacts. That was probably a mistake. Yeah, because this guy... I'm not sure what I want to do with him yet. Well, I could build a research
Construction
platform.
Complete.
That's the... Oh, that's Zif Prime, so that was... Yeah. Not a whole hell of a lot of for us to do right now.
Complete.
Space Amoebas Forever. The Space Amoebas, the nickname that became popular after the story of how it came to be found its way back to the garden, are solitary animals. when left to their own devices, but the youngest specimens are accompanied by quasi-independent organisms dubbed flagella, seemingly spawned by the amoeba and programmed through liquid RNA-laced secretions to do the bidding of the host. Initially assumed to be young space amoebas, the flagella do not seem to factor into any reproductive mechanics, each individual flagellum instead operating solely as a disconnected limb for its host amoeba. These flagella are capable of manipulating and even attacking objects in an impressive yet restricted range around the host, periodically returning to lodge inside the host amoeba's body for reprogramming. So, cosmic ray catalyst modifier added, giving the following effects: an additional 5% for energy credits. Which is good news.
Construction complete.
Because I was getting a little short.
Construction complete.
Alright, so we can build a new... We can build a new expansion to our borders here. This should finish before too long. Yeah, so I'm going to hold off on building any new ships. Oh, it's a shame. I just need one more. I'm going to hold off building any new ships, though, until again, I've got my... my construction ships doing the work that I originally built them for. Only 2 more to go, so I think we're gonna skip the research station, and instead we're going to we'll build some star bases. Again, a little
system survey.
Colossal impact crater hints that something big collided with the surface of this moon once. The main reason for this, I'm a little time sensitive in terms of claiming this territory before my neighbor does. So, and this is behaving as intended. Again, I'm not 100% sure whether or not these guys are still here, but we'll find out. What else am I thinking of right now? Well, I've got enough now. We can finish the work in the spaceship. Probably the next thing I want to do is upgrade. Oh, we're receiving a transmission from the Independent Space Station of the Zuracorp. They appear to have successfully translated our language. We gained 21 influence for it. Welcome to Zuracorp. We are a business conglomerate operating out of the Tay system, specializing in the trade of minerals and energy, the very building blocks of civilization, as we like to say here at Zuracorp. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you are interested in making a good deal.
Construction complete.
Large mineral-rich asteroid collided with Huff 5A at some point during the previous 1,000 years in what must have been a major impact event. An abundance of minerals can now be found on the moon in the vicinity of the impact crater. Alright, so we've hit my fleet cap, which I'm happy about. Let's see what it's going to cost me to upgrade. I think it's something like 360? 300. It's a little rich for my blood, seeing as I can build a colony ship for that. Oh, this is good. It's an ocean world, so I believe we can colonize that.
Construction complete.
So I'm gonna want that world no matter what. I guess the real question comes down to what's it gonna look like in terms of the borders. I mean, if I can completely encase these guys, that's awesome. I don't think it's going to work that way. The reason why encasing them would be great is it sort of guarantees that they're not going to be able to be... It sort of guarantees they're not going to be strong enough to, like, whop me. But that's pretty optimistic to think that I'm going to be able to sort of wrap the territory around like this. And on top of that, defend it, right? So it's a lot of... Oh, actually, hang on. That's not nearly as many entry points as I thought it would be. It's like Yilon's a bit of a problem. That would have been a good choke point.
Technology researched.
An advanced AI will aid science officers in their task to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no Blorg has gone before. The science ship will be able to explore the galaxy with the help from an AI. Okay. Probably it's time to put some money into combat capabilities. So we'll start with a fusion reactor. We've got our colony here, which I'm happy with, and we've got enough to build another colony ship. So I think Nifra is where I want to... Oh, nope, that was full of terrible things that bite. So Ziff, what does Ziff have? Ziff also has lots of terrible things that can bite. Okay, so moving right along. Eggroar. Eggroar has lots of terrible things that bite. So you know what? Nifra was cool. Who is that? Oh, Jess, how are you doing? I am in bed, which is good. But it is a little bit of a struggle to try and make everything work. So, now the real question that I have is, do I want to sacrifice the one food tile so that I can get the resource bonuses to the food here, the minerals here, and either the minerals or energy? Because this doesn't really give me a whole lot. This will only eventually give me a bonus. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I know I get the Unity bonuses from the farms, but I don't want to have too many tiles taken up with farms. That strikes me as a little silly. So, you know what? I think they're claiming this system. That is almost certainly what they're doing.
Construction complete.
What is that? Joshy Man, thank you very much for the subscription. Again, it's a little hard for me to keep track of everything on on the laptop, so I really do appreciate that. I believe... Is that your 5th? Yeah, it's 5th month. Thank you very much for the host, Jess. Now, guys, for those of you who don't know Jess, she just had a birthday recently, so she was streaming The Sims.
System survey.
She was streaming The Sims on her birthday as well. Okay, I'm gonna shoot for it, but I don't see how there's any possible way that I beat them to this. And with that in mind, I'm actually going to need to
System surveyed.
reconsider my expansion strategy here. But yeah, so Jess was playing The Sims. She's played The Sims today. She's also playing SpongeBob SquarePants the game, which I believe she's kind of turned that into a little bit of a tradition on her birthday. So I know she tends to play a lot of sort of classic stuff that she enjoyed playing as a kid. All right, unable to build. Yeah, so that's not surprising, although I didn't really consider it that well, because it now means that these guys are lost in the void for a little while. But anyways, Jess is obviously my mod, somebody who spent... I don't really keep track of time. She's definitely one of the longest term viewers that I've had, one of the longest term consistent viewers. Definitely, I think with that track record is in competition for most time spent viewing the stream. I'm obviously, I know I hear a little bit more often, where's Jess? You can take a look at her own cast to find her there. But again, somebody who's put a lot of time in terms of helping me build the channel, puts a lot of effort into letting people know about me, trying to get them to watch, and has definitely been somebody who kind of helped me find my way on Twitch. She's somebody who is a talented caster in her own right. As I mentioned, lately it's been a lot of material that she's, she kind of grew up with because of the birthday connection. But she'll do everything from sort of blogging about topics in psychology, which is that's what her background is in. She'll also she'll do a lot of story-based games, and she'll sort of talk about the motivations of the characters. She'll do maybe not a full English lit style analysis, but she'll definitely go into some of the ideas behind the game and discuss them. And again, somebody who I like to recommend often, because I think in terms of just the idea of being able to explore ideas, we have common cause in that sense. So I hope you guys enjoy her channel. It's definitely one that I continue to put the time into. All right, so I don't think I can sustain a second colony ship. Maybe I can, actually. As far as the other construction ship, I think we're just going to continue building minerals until I can see the next... Yeah, well, you know what? Looks like I can actually afford another colony ship, so we'll send those out right away. Oh, actually, this is already being colonized. My bad. So on Zif 2, obviously Zif Prime will be the source, and it's as good as any. Talked about a few psychological things today, like blue lights and the effect on sleep and depression, and then homosexuality in nature and animals. I didn't know that blue lights caused homosexuality in nature and animals. All right, let's build a farm. And tradition time. Okay, so I need to decide where I'm going. So, the greater good, unrest reduced, not a big deal. Paradise domes are nice, but that'll take 2. Negative impact on governing ethics attraction caused from distance from capital is reduced by 50%. That is tempting. Leader lifespan increased by 20%, again, also tempting. When in a defensive war with another empire, shipyard build speed is increased by 33%. In addition, the fire rate is increased by 15% for ships within your borders. Alternatives energy output increased by 5%. Trading hubs produce an additional 1 energy. Energy grid and energy nexus also now produce 2 unity. This is such a tough call. I think I'm actually going to go down the harmony path, though. Just for that defensive bonus. Defensive boner. Jesus. Defensive bonus. Complete. How you doing, Solar Winds? Thanks for stopping by. I feel really bad. For those of you who were here earlier, apparently there's one person whose message I completely missed. Oh, you know what? I was going to build additional science ships. Complete. So this is one thing, incidentally, for those of you who might have tried this game earlier, I tend to notice the changes in this game promote the construction of more sort of civilian ships, more science ships, more construction ships and such. Because you'll notice I have so many unused resources. I've got a pretty big surplus in terms of influence, and I'm just not going to be able to keep on top of all of it. So it's a at least in my experience, it's not a bad idea to get some additional ships. So I think what I'm going to wind up doing here with yeah, so we sort of lost the race with them. I think what we're going to do is we're going to cauterize along these lines, and we'll see maybe what results out of here. I basically just want to be able to draw some lines in terms of where our borders are with these guys. I think I also need to make some decisions in terms of... Oh, there's our additional science ship, so the MSS Drilling Leaf. we will recruit. How many? Yeah, I've got space. So youngest and maniacal. I like that. So I mean, obviously we're not too focused on I mean, obviously we've got this. We've also got a little gap inside here. We're not too focused on any expansion except for sort of the land grab that's going to happen with these guys. We're currently losing.
Construction complete.
I need to reconsider
Technology researched.
that. So I want to have at least one ship that's sort of expanding these frontiers to try and give these guys a run for their money. However, I don't want to just totally abandon exploration out these ways, as this is a natural expansion point. I know. I can expect, basically, I want to at least have one ship. Please stop telling me how to play the game. I have played the game so long, it is naturally for me to right-click along. I don't understand why people come into new channels and tell people how to play fucking games. I have been playing this game since it started. Please assume that I know what I'm doing. Nuclear fusion process generate a great amount of power, but without many of the risks associated with fission power. All right. Gravic sensors are my favorite out of all of these. It is safe to assume that channels will tell you if they want to be told how to play the game. It is a good assumption that if you talk to somebody about a movie, you don't tell them how the movie ends. If you talk to somebody about a game, you don't tell them how to play the game. Okay? I totally get that you're new here. I'm very happy to have you, but please, it is the guaranteed way to ruin the night would be to tell me how to play, especially this game. But yeah, so, I mean, this will help out with stuff like the space amoeba that we were running into. Because this is pacifist, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to handle the whole defense. I mean, it's a pacifist, it's an ellipse, and it's a species that I haven't built. So the defense question is just a wide open one for me here. So I don't see a whole lot of use for FTL inhibitors. And then reactor booster, I don't know, like there isn't as compelling of an argument over vision. Vision really is the thing that tells everyone how to work. Golo 5, actually, you'll be even, I think you'll be even more irritated. I got these at the very start of the game. You might have been here the whole time, but I saw your hello message half an hour after you sent it, and I felt terrible I didn't say hi earlier, so sorry about that. But yeah, both of these guys, I had these at the very start. And then I hired the maniacal guy, and we wound up with a second one. So I've definitely been treated well in terms of my start. That's for sure. Okay, I think I can afford to build some research stations instead. Your AFK just got back 5 minutes ago. Okay, excellent. So if I really don't like I really don't like my VODs, but if you want a good laugh, feel free to watch me just completely twist in the wind over the fact that I saw the time and that I ignored you for half an hour.
Upgraded.
Unfortunately, you're going to need to remember at what point of the cast you saw that. So that reminds me, I still need to get my VODs up from not last week, but the week before. Okay, let me just double check if my science ships are doing what I want them to. Yes, so they're going to be looking after the menace. These guys, I think I'm going to use them to sort of fill in the gaps, and then I might allocate them somewhere else. All right, we're okay energy-wise, but I want to make sure I'm keeping on top of that. I think eventually I'm going to take these... So right now I'm going to fill in the gaps in terms of my my own empire, and I think either depending who's up first, either Rhizome of Grey. Oh, actually, I've got some more artifacts I can get. Yeah, so I think Rhizome of Grey. I'm actually gonna put into.
Initiated.
I'm gonna put onto.
Anomaly discovered.
Colossal impact. Ah, we're receiving a weak signal from the surface of the moon. The source appears to be some kind of tracking beacon. I think, yeah, I think I'm actually going to...
Evading hostiles.
Hawaz, a frontier system close to our space, has recently earned a reputation as a lawless hive of scum and villainy. It has attracted a large number of ne'er-do-wells, and following a recent power struggle, these criminal degenerates are now sufficiently organized to begin launching raids into our space. Actually, we might as well go after the proper fleet.
System surveyed.
So it looks like they're heading
complete.
after... might make some more sense to head over here. And... they're probably already going for Rasalgethi on their own. And what else? What's my leader situation looking like?
Construction complete.
I'm not going to be building sectors anytime soon, so there is an argument to be made for me to go just crazy on scientists. Oh, I can't move into the... Alright. We'll stay put and hope to God that I didn't make the wrong call in terms of where to put my guys. Now, expansion options. Thad, Crash... I mean, Hupf is the golden one. Yeah, you know what? We'll make a beeline for that. Also, it's probably I'm dragging my feet on this, but not a bad time to start making some starports.
Construction complete.
Okay, this is one of my infrastructure ships. So let's say... yeah, we'll move them... we'll take care of the left-hand side of things for now. As far as...
Planet colonized.
Hooray. Okay, Nifra Prime. As always, we'll start with the farm. A new faction has been recently gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Mawir caretakers. Led by scientist Rhizome of Grey, they call themselves the Eternal Vigilance Party. Their members have been advocating for closed borders and non-interference in galactic affairs. Do you have any tips on playing an authoritarian slaver empire? You've never tried anything like it, and you heard that it's super good right now. Yeah, so it's a tough call, Gullo 5. So one of the reasons why authoritarianism is so popular right now is the way that you expand your board. I'm sure you know this already, but maybe for the benefit of those who who aren't familiar with the mechanics of the game, because your borders expand based on the expenditure of influence, the bonus that you get from influence in terms of your the authoritarian ethic helps you out with your expansion. I'm not so sure why slaving is popular, but it just so happened, like, this is purely coincidental. The first species I played in the new patch, and the one we'll be returning to when my PC gets fixed, they were actually authoritarians with the syncretic evolution civic. So if you don't recall the name, that's the one that starts you off with extra pops, which are a slave caste. So the biggest advantage I found for me for that style is that you get to hyper specialize in terms of your population. So what I notice is, like, building something like a slaving building and having a bunch of, like, strong, dumb units to work on mineral resources, having that slave processing facility to give a percentage bonus on tiles which are mineral focused, and on top of that there's like a 5 or 10% bonus for them being like strong or something like that. They tend to stack up and they result in these very large outputs. I tend to find I run into a lot of unrest problems with slavery, and so if you are like me and tend not to go down the harmony tree that often, harmony is very helpful to overcome some of your slaving problems. Otherwise, you're going to be eating up all of your gains by having large armies that you're not going to be able to take up and invade other planets with, because you're going to wind up in terms of unrest. But I think if you're interested in micromanaging, if you're interested in having a certain degree of control in terms of being able to specialize what resources are extracted and what species do that, I've been having a good time with the authoritarian empire, and with that in mind, the ability to subjugate planets and just kind of be able to grow through invading people. It's nice because, of course, you can sort of find a place for all of these fresh workers that come in. But I'm sure, like, if you're looking for like the min-maxing tips, I'm sure there's a few like Reddit threads or forums that can tell you like the quote unquote right way to play slaving despots. But personally, I found the fact that I had a lot of influence to play around with, and the fact that it was so easy to be able to put people in the right spots for all of those percentage bonuses, they added up very quickly, which was what worked for me. By the way, guys, I am technically at the end of cast time. I'll go a little bit later just to wrap up a couple of threads. But just a quick warning, we are going into overtime, and this is a very survivable Plan B style stream, but I'm sure the game is a little more quiet than what you were hoping for, and I'm a little uncomfortable the way it's all set up right now, so I'll see if I can fix that by Wednesday if I don't get my computer back. Alright, a new faction has recently been gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Marweir Caretakers. Led by scientist Rhizome of Grey, they call themselves the Eternal Vigilance Party. Oh, that's right, we already read this. You seem to have trouble keeping factions happy in your game. Are there any other ways to get influence? Well, obviously your ethic will determine that. Covenant, more than one. So I think, in my opinion, factions are the best way. Obviously,
System surveyed.
Changing your ethic will help out depending on the factions that you have. Obviously you can embrace what are they? Yeah.
Evading hostiles.
So I mean, it's sort of spending influence to gain influence, but if you feel that if you don't want to, I guess here's the biggest thing. I mean, this is a little bit how in theory, politics works, except that there's a really good paper you can read that explains how authoritarian systems still have special interests to take care of on their own anyway. But I guess the big idea is if you don't like democracy, if you don't actually like taking care of factions within your government, then embracing authoritarianism will give you your boost in terms of influence. I think the biggest question about managing factions it's less about keeping all factions happy so much as keeping one particular one happy. So of course this is a smaller faction, but they already like a lot of things that I already do. Any influx of Xenos, be they refugees, yeah, so we can't do anything about that. What about these guys? Non-violence, strategic resource, solid liquidity. Okay, so I'll get more energy. But yeah, I think the idea is a little bit more about picking which faction to keep happy. I agree with you. It's hard to keep everyone happy, and nor do I think it's desirable because there is a cap. But if you can sort of focus on one narrow group who you think will be able to get you your influence, that's one way of getting around it. And likewise, again, you can go the fictional despot way and say, well, you know what? Screw you all. I know what's best. I'm just gonna get my influence through my authoritarian points. But obviously, even if you're an authoritarian, if you're able to keep one or two factions happy, you'll still be able to get your influence from there. Sin, you've been lurking with this in your background. Sorry you've been so quiet. You've been listening from your phone. Not a problem at all, Sin. We're always happy to have you here. You're poking around on Reddit. Some guy maxed out slaves make 35% more minerals than maxed out robots, which is what you usually play. And he had Ring Worlds by 2270 as an authoritarian spiritualist. That's made you want to try this build. Yeah, actually, I think that those numbers sound right intuitively. I'm not 100% sure on maxed out robot. I mean, I definitely role play this game more than anything. I don't focus a lot on percentages, but that rings true to me. As far as the spiritualist thing, I mean, spiritualist is how I went. I am mildly curious about the possibilities that you get from pacifism because I believe that gives you bonuses to production now. So technically, if you wanted to have your slaves like overproducing, you would probably embrace a certain pacifist ethic. But I know pacifism isn't particularly popular. I think a lot of people feel that it's very restricting. So, all right, let's take a look at what the Iota Menace wants. And what else was I up to? All right, Ziff, I needed to double check. I think, yeah, so I can upgrade my buildings if it comes down to it. Let's at least go for baby steps and build a power plant. I'm assuming this is because my fleet is currently hanging out. Oh, nope. I don't want any part of that. Alright, so it's possible that they got gobbled up by the aliens. That will make me happy if that's
Construction complete.
Alright, what are you up to, sir?
Construction complete.
We're definitely going to expand those borders.
Hostile fleet sighted.
Oh, god damn it. Ah! I don't think we're going to make that in time. Alright, we'll build... Oh, I'm out of money. That's what I get for leaving
project complete.
My ship out like that. Void clouds. An investigation into this particular cluster of debris and space dust has yielded surprising results. It is a particulate cloud bristling with a powerful charge of unknown origin that has no business exhibiting simple reflexive actions, let alone movements with purpose. And yet it does. There's something undeniably ominous about the hazy subject of the relayed video feeds. Perhaps there are things in the universe we should not tangle with. Let us watch, but not interfere with it.
Situation log updated.
So as before, we've got a big surplus of physics research, so no reason not to do that. Let's build that science lab as quickly as we can. I know I was going to build a mineral processing plant, but I have a feeling I'm going to be sitting on
Construction complete.
on these improvements for a bit. Authoritarians can purge slaves, right? You don't need to be a xenophobe to be able to purge. I believe that is correct. Let me take a quick look. I think if I mouse over it, it should tell me the requirements. Oh, this, you know what, this is... So I'm a xenophobe. That's actually not going to be too helpful. I'm sure StellarisWiki.com will give a definitive answer on that. Oh yeah, and I don't have any species with... I believe that's correct, Galo5, but I'd put it to you this way, like, knowing that you'll probably put a couple of hours into a game building yourself out to find... building yourself to a point where you're able to find that out. Oop. Thank you very much for that follow.
Special project complete.
You know, knowing that you're going to dedicate the time to do something like that, I wouldn't feel comfortable being the one to like lead you down that garden path, only to find out like the crux of your strategy isn't there. But again, I think you're right. It would be weird to include a purge that only works with xenophobes. But I'll actually, you know what? I'm already in overtime, so let me just see if I can find this on the wiki myself. If this is working correctly, you won't hear too much typing, but I am a little close to my mic right now, so... So it'll upset your factions for sure.
I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member.
Who followed? Solar Winds, thank you very much for the follow. And thanks for staying. Yeah, so Gullo5, with only slight apprehension, I will say that that's not a xenophobe only trait, and my apologies if I've misled you. Batesball89 is Stellaris to get into. You've played Sins of a Solar Empire. Okay. There's two things you should know with my answer to this. One, I've been given a copy of the Stellaris base game and all of the expansion DLC, not the cosmetic DLC, but like Utopia, Synthetic Dawn Leviathans, and the most recent one, Apocalypse, from Paradox. So insofar as I've not needed to pay for this game, I have a financial interest in that, but I clearly would not be playing the game if I didn't enjoy it. I also haven't played Sins of a Solar Empire, so I'm not going to be able to give you a good comparison for that. I think this is a great game. This is possibly my favorite grand strategy game, and it's definitely a favorite compared to some other space-based strategy games that I play, like Civilization Beyond Earth, Endless Space 1 and 2. I really enjoy those kinds of games. This is very much a genre that I enjoy. So here's the deal with how Stellaris works. I think each individual, so this will seem like a somewhat evasive answer, but I really believe, like if you ask me, is Stellaris worth to get into based on my own taste, the answer is undeniably yes. But the thing is, I don't know if your tastes are my tastes. So the contract is this. There's a bit of a learning curve. I think it's the friendliest learning curve out of all of the Paradox Grand Strategy games. So like if you've already played like Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron, Hearts of Iron is very different from this game, but still, if you played a Paradox Grand Strategy game, you know what you're getting into. The contract is that there's an investment that you need to make in terms of learning the game, and Stellaris is the easiest one to learn and to get into. And the deal is that by putting in that effort at the start, you will get you'll definitely get hundreds of hours, and you will very possibly get thousands of hours out of the game. Crusader Kings has been supported for about 5 years. They keep adding things. That does mean paid DLC, by the way, but they do also add free features as part of these the DLC as well. This game is very, very different from what it was in the original, and the roadmap that they've sort of given in terms of things that they want to improve is very impressive. So if you like games with complexity and you like a lot of diversity, one of the things that makes Stellaris great is it's this tremendous canvas on which you can paint any science fiction story you want to tell. I very rarely look at like stats and like min-maxing options. I just kind of sit in there, I make a species, and I just revel in that experience. So if you like science fiction, and you like if you like having lots of moving parts and just sort of the ability to kind of craft this sort of space opera in a strategy game, Stellaris really is the game to beat. The drawbacks are that this is not a game that you can put in for like 45 minutes and get your fill. You're really looking to dedicate some time to play this game. If you are easily frustrated, so like if you're at a point where, you know, you kind of have to know everything, or you feel like you have to have a very good grasp of things before you make a given decision, then there will be some pain points in terms of learning the game. But I do need to stress, like, if you've ever wondered about some of these grand strategy games, this is the best one to start off with, in my opinion. And if you specifically, again, with mentioning something like Sins of a Solar Empire, if you generally like this style of game in terms of like a 4X-ish sort of space strategy game, again, in my opinion, Stellaris is the game that everybody needs to beat. I've had so much fun with this. And it's one that it's one that I even recommend to my friends that don't play games along these lines. So I would encourage you. I'm going to be wrapping up fairly soon, but I do play this game more or less every Monday. Sometimes I go to other grand strategy games, but I think we're going to be in Stellaris for a while. So if you would like, I'm going to be uploading this video tomorrow. And if you specifically have any questions about the game, or you'd like to see what sort of the opening of the game is like, and you don't want to watch the VOD, I'll most likely be back with this next week, so I'd be happy to answer any granular questions you have about the opening experience as well. There's also a few people in the chat who are big fans of Stellaris, so I'm sure they'll be able to tell you their opinions of the game as well. Solar Wind says it was your first grand strategy game. You like it even though it seemed a bit slow at times. Other than that, it's fun. Yeah, I'm gonna guess Solar Winds, you probably played before the Apocalypse patch, so the game's probably even more slow than it was before now. But yeah, Batesball89, so obviously my enthusiasm for the game is apparent. I would, on the basis of the fact that you like other science fiction strategy games, and knowing that I've sort of said the conditions under which you may not enjoy it, I'd feel pretty confident recommending it. All right, the Void Clouds are, as Marware researchers can tell, among the oldest entities in the universe. They seem to have originated just a scant few billion years after matter as we know it first appeared. The tremendous forces of the young cosmos making something out of nothing. They would have been stars once, but were not. Explaining their apparent animal intelligence is more difficult, but the answer might lie in the abnormally strong electromagnetic fields that keep them together, another product of their primordial beginnings. It is not inconceivable that, given enough time, the circulation of its strange stardust and gravitic fields aligned in a flexible approximation of neural pathways. Moreover, the clouds seem to be receiving impulses from one another, if not outright communicating light years apart. Quantum entanglement is expected to play a role in this phenomena. So we've gained 150 physics, we've gained the cloudburster modifier, and just damage to void clouds. Good to know. Might wait till it comes on special on Steam next and get it. Absolutely, Batesball. So if you're curious about sales, so there's a couple places I can recommend. If you want to support Paradox, Paradox Plaza
Construction complete.
is a place that you can actually get a Steam key directly from them. That'll save them the 30% that they pay to Valve. The other reason why you'll be interested in that is they do their own sales. The game's also available on Humble, so if you are a subscriber to Humble Monthly, there's 10% off in addition to whatever sale is going on. Then finally there's Steam itself. But I mean, I'm affiliated with GOG. I actually don't really like Steam that much, so obviously I like recommending the alternatives. But I can tell you the game usually goes on sale when there's a new DLC out. So the DLC is just recently was just recently released. So it's less likely that you're going to see one coming up as part of a specific part of a specific Paradox sale. But with that in mind, what you're probably going to see as sort of an alternative, there's probably going to be like a spring sale or something like that on the major storefronts. So like Humble, Steam, GOG doesn't have it, so that doesn't matter. And I'm assuming Paradox might do their own sort of like spring cleaning sale or something like that. So keep an eye during the general sales. If you hear that there's a new DLC coming out for Stellaris, there'll almost certainly be a sale on the day that DLC gets released. What else? Oh yes, and if you do use Humble, I think Jessie Quill was talking in the channel. We did a shout out for her a little bit earlier, but she's affiliated with Humble Bundle. So if you want to support streamers and you came from her side, or even if you don't know her and you just want to support a really good streamer, I believe she has a link which, if she's in here, she'd be happy to share. Although I don't think the game is on sale currently. Yeah, sorry, Jess. There's no. I really appreciate the GOG link, but there's no. The only Paradox games that are on GOG are Paradox published ones, and the old Grand Strategy games. So you can get like the original Europa Universalis and the original. God, why can't I think tonight? The original Crusader Kings. I think also Hearts of Iron 3. I don't know. Anyways, there's my sales pitch both for Jess and for the different storefronts. I think the question is, if Humble has the sale first, then the sale will be on Humble. If Paradox has the sale... Oh, actually, here's what you want to do. Batesball89, take a look around May, because in May there's going to be PDXCon. That's Paradox's special... That's their convention. If they do something special, they'll probably do it for PDXCon.
Construction complete.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking until that. All right, I think we'll just keep. I'm just gonna keep building what I can, and we might as well colonize this planet. It's gonna be a bit hair raising in terms of trying to manage all my ships, but I might as well get those pops building while I can. We'll just take them from the go. I'm lacking the minerals. Okay, I think I'm going to call it here because I'm half an hour over and I do have a training course that I need to be at tomorrow. So let's do a quick recap in terms of what we did. We started off in Marwir. We had a lot of options available to us. A lot of the expansion wound up helping, maybe late on the conversation, but this very nice PDX Humble Bundle sale a couple weeks back, which included Stellaris. Yeah, Deathvortex, it's a shame, actually. I think the time for the sales are over. Actually, let's just double check that, though. I'm going to take a quick moment on Humble. I appreciate you mentioning that, because I did forget to mention it. Let's see if it's on sale right now. No, looks like it's back to full price. Anyways, it's something. It's you can definitely wish list. So whatever your favorite storefront is, you can wish list it on Humble. You can wish list it on, or I don't know if you can wish list on the Paradox site. I'm sure you can see that on their own website. And then of course you can wish list it on Steam. Just because I don't like Steam doesn't mean that other people can't shop there. But it's fairly consistent in terms of its sales. So. But anyways, so we started off, this is one of the pre-built ones. I believe you get this with the Plantoids DLC pack. It's an Irenic dictatorship, so fanatic pacifists and xenophobic. Dictatorial actually seems to be a really easy authority, but then they're also long-lived, so my 61-year-old ruler, I mean, kind of makes sense that there hasn't been any changes. A lot of our expansion was driven mostly by... so originally it was just sort of a random choice in terms of directions we went. We certainly did very well for ourselves in terms of minerals. We sort of found a natural edge here, and we found other potential opponents. So what we did here was we decided to expand out, see if we could at least sort of put a box around the potential expansion of these guys. We largely failed at it because they were able to get Porabim, and then of course because they got Sayama, that's cut me off from any potential expansion out here. So what I'm sort of doing right now with this science ship is we're seeing whether or not we can... I should actually do this right now. I'm going to make the most direct path to this area. So if what we find is sort of compelling enough on this path, I'll finish the journey. Otherwise, I think the name of the game is just going to be containment on these guys for this part of the galaxy, and then we're going to focus on expanding out our areas here. Turns out this was not a bad idea to ignore this whole area, because it seems that the Howling Vortex is home to about 8,000 strength of void clouds. We have a princely 1,000 in terms of military strength. Of course, I've been neglecting my stations, so I should be able to improve that fairly rapidly. In fact, we'll start by building a trading hub over here so that I can get my energy credits up. But yeah, I think the next little while and the next little bit of expansion that we're going to be doing, I'm going to need to make some decisions in terms of how I expand out along these lines. Our expansion costs are very, very small, so I can sort of afford to throw some influence at some particular expansion goals. My priorities, of course, are Stratel and Sezutov. If I find out that there's a construction ship moving in here, I'm going to be very, very sad. But basically, if I can make a sort of a border along these lines, that eventually means that I'm going to be able to expand out here at my leisure, and then we'll be sending some science ships out to see what we can find along these lines. Obviously, at some point, I want to fill in this gap as well. That'll probably be fulfilled by the ship in Hawas. In fact, I might as well. No, I'll save that for tomorrow or Wednesday. It seems, looking at the traits for these guys, so they really can't do anything. They can't really declare war or demand vassalization or anything like that. They really do stick to themselves. So it seems like the strategy for these guys is to just expand out as quickly as possible, build as many colonies. I've wanted to try and keep it so that I'm constantly pushing out these borders as much as I can. Given the fact that there's a new empire in the area, that's going to be one of the biggest factors that that prevents me from being able to achieve that goal. So that's one of the reasons why this expansion is so important here. And then hopefully we're going to have... I mean, we have a few channels that we can expand out, right? We've got along these... If this gets cut off to us, we've got something that we can explore along these lines. And then if that's cut off to us, well, we just kind of cut around the center of the galaxy. As far as the goal, we're not really that close to it, but I don't feel like we're going to be able to conquer or subjugate anyone, and we've got a non-aggression pact with them. we're doing okay. So they've caught up technologically, which worries me a little bit with the God Emperor here. But we should be able to make that up because I have been See, the biggest thing is we had a nice technological advantage with them when we first met them, and I've not really been investing in my technology. So once I'm able to turn my industrial might from building out these planets and instead turn that towards expanding out my ability to research, we should be able to get back on our feet with these guys. Anyways, I really appreciate the follows, guys. Obviously, these are less than ideal circumstances for me streaming. I mean, I'm in bed. I've got my microphone sort of dangling off of a stand just off the side of bed, and I'm on a Mac laptop trying to juggle all my windows. I'll see if I can get a slightly more robust setup for Wednesday. And hopefully by then I will have heard from the store either one, what's wrong with my computer, or that they fixed my computer. And I think in reality though, it seemed, if you wanted my guess, it's a motherboard problem. And if that's true, then I'm going to be waiting for however long it takes MSI to send me a new one. And if I'm out of warranty or it's not covered by warranty, then the question is however long it takes me to purchase a new one. But I will continue to stream. I'll try to keep the regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday cast. It does mean the composition of games is going to change a lot. I can obviously still do Stellaris and Paradox style games, but a lot of the stuff that we were doing before, all the save games are on that computer, which is not in my possession at the moment. And first of all, technologically, the laptop can't handle the same games that the desktop does. The desktop was specifically designed for streaming and actually designed through donation money from you, so thank you for that again. But on top of that, it's a Mac, so there are limitations. I wanted to do some of the original Monkey Island games. Those turn out to be Windows only, so the last couple of days has been me going through my libraries to see if there's some things that I think will be fun for you guys to watch on the weird aspect ratio that comes up as a result of this laptop and all of this stuff. But again, I don't want to complain about it too much. I mean, the really important thing that I've learned out of all of this is I am lucky enough that I have a computer that I've built for streaming. Not only do I have a computer that I've built that's dedicated to streaming, but it's one that I have grown attached to and I'm happy enough with, and I've gotten used to streaming with it enough that I miss it when it's gone. And I'm lucky enough to be able to own a backup computer in order to keep streaming. There's plenty of people who, if a computer goes down, they can't function. And they don't get the option of buying a replacement part. They need to wait for the warranty or something like that. So if I were to be too loud with my complaints, I would come off as an extremely privileged and very ungrateful individual. But with that in mind, I know it's not going to be ideal quality for the next little while, and I appreciate the fact that there was a very healthy turnout despite these problems. So yeah, no, it's all good, Death Vortex. Like I say, you got to hear my whole spiel on that. Now, guys, I'm going to do something a little different. So I will let you know there's a streamer who I really like, Kilgore Trout, who's doing Ultima 3 on the GOG channel. And I do really enjoy his channel, but I host him a lot, and it looks like Sheriff Eli is doing Far Cry 5. I actually still quite enjoy watching Sheriff Eli's stuff. We're not going to do a formal raid because I really don't know him, and I don't think that's quite the right thing to do, to go to a really big caster and like drop a raid message or something like that. But I do like his stuff. I do like his attitude. I know there's always drama in terms of stuff that happens on Twitch, but I think his style is really well fit for Far Cry 5. So I know it's different from Stellaris. If you want to watch more Stellaris content, definitely feel free to click the game below the video here, because there's certainly going to be a few Stellaris streamers who will be very grateful to watch or to have you watch their stuff. But I'd like to share Sheriff Eli for you. For those of you who haven't seen it, I find him quite an entertaining caster, and I think he'll be very well suited to Far Cry 5. So without further ado, I will leave you in the capable hands of the good Sheriff, and I'll see you all on Wednesday. Have a good night.